New home, Geodis Park, is nearly complete. Don't miss Nashville SC's home opener May 1st. Secure your season tickets now. Come on and grab a seat at NashvilleSC.com/22ticks.
Hey, it's Jared for TriStar Moving. If you're looking to move, you need to give my friends at TriStar Moving a call. At TriStar Moving, you'll get 5-star service throughout the entire process. Everything will be taken care of, from covering your floors, banisters, railings, front door thresholds, furniture, TVs, and more. They took great care of my move and made it as stress-free as possible. If you're looking to move, give TriStar Moving a call, 615-640-1219, or visit them at nashvillemoving.org/radio and get 5% off your entire move. TriStar Moving, my official movers.
Houston Clinic Orthopedics wants to thank their patients for voting them the #1 orthopedic practice in the Nashville Scene Poll for 3 years in a row. Their physicians specialize in spine, joint replacement, knee, hip, upper extremity, and other orthopedic conditions. At Houston Clinic Orthopedics, they adhere to all CDC guidelines for the patient's and staff safety. To experience world-class orthopedic care and see a list of all physicians, visit their website at tn.houston.com and book your appointment online today.
Introducing the first Nashville location of Mayweather Boxing and Fitness. Floyd Mayweather shares his unique workout philosophies and training programs for the first time. Perfect for all fitness levels. Join a community that will help every person unleash their inner champ with fun, effective, and empowering group boxing circuit workouts. Become a founding member today. Stop by the brand new studio in Midtown and join the family exclusive. Pre-opening rates now available. Mayweather Boxing and Fitness, the gold standard in boxing fitness.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne, broadcasting 97.5 Murfreesboro, 106.3 Williamson County,
ESPN,
102.5 The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Live from the Game Nashville studios, it's Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. With Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Eckel skates it back out, and now inside the Nashville line. He turns the corner, enters the zone on the right wing side. Back for Johansson. Johansson from the right corner, in front, and the score! Matthias Eckel tips it home, and the Predators have a 1-0 victory in overtime.
I told you all yesterday. I told you all. Stillman and Company, delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the law offices of Amanda Gentry, live from the Hillside Medical Game Studios. Told you guys they were going to win last night. I never doubted it for a second.
I'm sure you didn't.
Not 1 second during last night's game did I doubt that the Predators were going to beat the San Jose Sharks. I came on at 2 o'clock yesterday, and I guaranteed a victory. And even though, for a lot of other people, I think that, they got a little nervous. Not me.
Not you. You didn't get nervous at all.
I always knew. Even
not
though
a single puck went in the net.
When Colton Sissons hit the post on what should have been an easy goal and they didn't score, when San Jose, and I was about 5 or 6 rows off the goal where San Jose was attacking in overtime, when they got 2 quality chances, thanks in large part to Mikhail Granlund, when they got 2 high-quality breakaway chances, and thank goodness for UC Sorrow, they avoided absolute disaster because of it, I wasn't nervous. Wasn't nervous at all.
I do not believe you.
But I'd like to take a look at the scoreboard. Jared's all-time guarantees as far as games are concerned. Now, there's some other things I've guaranteed that have been right and have been wrong, but as far as games are concerned, 3-1. So I'm 3-1. I lost the game to Calgary, but I did not doubt it for a second last night when they won that game. Now, let's get serious for a second. What the hell happened last night?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'm a little torn here because I look at the Predators and I'm like, every coach who's ever coached in pro sports and even probably college sports will tell you that a win's a win. It's like, win against a bad team. The Titans do this all the time. They played a game in 2017. Mike Mularkey was still the coach. They played the Cleveland Browns, who were like in that midst of that 31-1 or whatever it was with Hugh Jackson as the coach. And Kevin Byard picked off Deshaun Kaiser 3 times, and the Titans won in overtime on a field goal. And people were livid because that Browns team was horrible. And so the Titans won the game, and like Mike Mularkey had to like defend for the whole week the fact that they barely beat Cleveland, and it was the whole, a win is a win in the NFL, and the GM was saying the same thing, and every pro sport coach will say it, and then every coach will say, hey, would you rather do that, or would you rather beat Kentucky and lose to St. Peter's? A 2 losing to a 15. You'd rather win by 1 point in advance and do whatever, and I think that's probably what the Predators are saying. I mean, I got in the car this morning, and I was listening to Joe basically talk about the game. I didn't know what game Joe watched, but I felt like I was listening to Joe talk about, the Predators played great. Puck just didn't bounce their way last night. And I'm thinking to myself, did we watch the same game? Is that the same team? I'm sitting there in my seats, same seats that I saw Saturday when they played Florida, who's the best team in the NHL, and I'm like, they put up a way better fight against Florida than they did last night against San Jose, which I think leads me to that question that we ask a bunch. It kind of goes up and down about whether or not the Predators play up to their competition and play down to their competition, and maybe that's a good thing going into the playoffs. But, I mean, what a discouraging performance last night by the Predators. Absolutely everything was on the line last night. They could not lose that game. And settling for non-quality offensive chances, firing the puck 8 feet wide of the net, guys just turning the puck over in their own zone. In overtime, the fact that they won, was truly amazing off of how they played that overtime. They so deserved to lose that overtime. Just turning the puck over, breakaway after breakaway for San Jose.
Well, that's where UC Saros comes in. That's what makes him so incredibly important.
But they absolutely deserve to lose last night. If they play that way tomorrow night against Edmonton with McDavid and Draisaitl, they will lose by like 8. They will lose like 8-0 tomorrow night if they play that way. I got to tell you, with everything that was stacked up one way or another, and what you knew of San Jose, you knew that they were out partying on Broadway. They
have nothing to play for.
You knew that there was no reason for them to be there. And for that game to be the way it was just so discouraging last night. They lose to Florida, and it was a 4-1 game, but it was really a 2-1 game with 2 empty netters. It's a 2-1 game against the best team in the league, and I thought they played hard. They just weren't good enough to play against Florida. And then they play against Pittsburgh, and again, I think the big difference in the game, I thought the Predators outplayed the Penguins, but the big difference was the Penguins have Sidney Crosby and the Predators don't have Sidney Crosby. I can live with that. But last night, oh my goodness, careless with the puck, settling for bad shots. Nobody getting to the front of the net except for the one goal, which Matt Duchene was offsides on, which seriously can't happen. If you're playing in the playoffs in a nip and tuck game and you go offsides, it can cost you the game. It happened to Duchene in the bubble series against Arizona. Am I wrong? Kick it around the room. Am I wrong for being so incredibly discouraged by last night's win?
Are you not encouraged at least by the fact that although the looks weren't great?
No.
Why?
Because this has been a long-standing excuse from the Predators. This predates, honestly, this may predate me. But I remember there was a period in time in 2016 when they weren't playing great. Mm-hmm. And it was like, we got 42 shots and they got 22 shots. And it was just Shea Weber and Yossi and Ellis just firing them from the point. So, how many quality chances did the Predators have last night? Sissons had the one that he hit off the post, and they had some looks. They played hard last night. I'm not saying they didn't play hard.
I wouldn't question the effort from last night, but I do think there is something to say about the number of shots.
Pulling up, I hate that. I hate that excuse
Why?
so much because the Predators have lost so many games. They've lost so many games where they outshoot the opponent 42-17. Nobody talked about that when they won Game 6 of the Western Conference Final. And, they got a hat trick from Colton Sissons on 15 shots, and Rene stopped 42. Nobody made a big deal about that. It's that is, as somebody wants, that's loser talk. That's the Eric Dickerson, if we'd had another quarter, or if this didn't happen this way, or if it, we don't want to almost win. We want to win.
Well, the Predators did win.
They did win, but the team they won against sucks.
They do suck.
And that's why I'm discouraged.
There is no excuse that game should have gone into overtime.
Are you discouraged by yesterday?
I'm really not. On a scale of 1 to 10 of the discouragement scale, 10 being throwing my hands up, what in the heck are the Predators doing? I'm at a 4. or a 5 after last night. I don't think I take too much away from that. Should that game have gone into overtime? Absolutely not. Should
the Predators were horrible in overtime.
Should the Predators have won 10-0? Yes, they should have.
Well, I don't know about that. But they were horrible in overtime. Like, they were freaking horrible in overtime.
Yeah,
they would have lost to
puck
anybody
management.
else. I'm just watching Brent Burns just skate along. By the way, Ian, is he any good anymore? Brent Burns?
I mean, not as good as he used to be, but he's still pretty solid.
I was like, he's like the Matt Ryan of hockey. Like in
he's getting up there.
2016, he was unbelievable. And now, like, he's just a solid veteran player. But I'm watching Brent Burns do whatever he wants in overtime with the puck, just to take it in, take it out, take it back, take it in, take it out. And, like, they're getting breakaway opportunities, and it's like the Predators, they get a rush. And I understand some of this is, a product of 3-on-3, but the Predators get a rush, and then all of a sudden, here come, like, 2 San Jose defenders and a Preds defenseman who's totally caught out of the way, and they're trying to make up ground, and they get just 2 quality, beautiful looks that, honestly, like, Saros is great, might have been a little bit of pure luck, in some of those shots. It's like soccer, in a penalty kick.
There's an element of luck a little bit there in a few shots.
And it shouldn't be about luck against that team. Ian,
No,
were you discouraged by last night's game?
Not really. I mean, would we have liked to probably seen them score more? Obviously. I thought the goalie for San Jose did not play terribly. Much better than, he's an upgrade to their goalie that they played, last month when they won 8-0. This guy's at least had some starting experience with another team. So I thought they had some decent chances. It felt like they were a click off, offensively. But overall, I like the fact that they actually outshot the opponent significantly, because it's usually the flip the other way around this year. A lot of the times they've been getting outshot, 40-something to whatever. So they didn't really give up a whole lot of shots and a whole lot of chances and a whole lot of zone time. So would we like to see a better score? Probably, but overall, not very discouraged.
Oh, I think the Predators were an eyelash away from losing last night, and it would have been a full-on meltdown around this town if they had lost. Like, that's the way I feel. I mean, this game should not – I mean, I'm not saying they should have beat them 8-0, but, I mean, the Predators should have won. I'm not saying the Predators didn't play hard. I'm not saying that – but to me, this is what this team is, which maybe is good for the playoffs because maybe you play up to your opponents when you get to the playoffs.
But that shouldn't be the case. I mean, playing up to your opponents is always a good thing, but there's another side to that, that tail is the Predators play up to their opponents, but they play down to bad opponents.
What did Hal say yesterday? Hal's like, if you take some of these games, they've lost to Seattle and they've lost, he's talking about bad teams. He's like, you take some of these games, they've lost to Ottawa and Buffalo, and, they'd be in second place. It's like, yes.
Yeah, but
that's the problem.
That's
the problem. And last night, I thought was a case of that. So we're starting off on that. 615-737-1025. Again, I guarantee that they won, but boy, I wasn't happy about it. And that's the question. Do you have a problem with last night's win? Should you have a problem with last night's win? Should the coach have a problem with last night's win? I found his comments to be very interesting. We'll get to that next. 615-737-1025, Stillman & Company. The game.
Do you have that one person or thing that just makes you mad? Join us every Friday at noon on the DDC for You Just Made the List. Fueled by Parman Energy. Visit ParmanEnergy.com, your one-stop petroleum solution, and try Star Movie on the DDC on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
You just made the list.
Pro Golf is back in Middle Tennessee. Mark your calendars for the Simmons Bank Open, May 5th through 8th. You can see the next wave of PGA Tour stars. Be sure to visit the Sand Trap at the 14th hole and check out great local food trucks, including Hattie B's, Hogwood Barbecue, Dream Burger, Padrino Pops, cocktails from Jack Daniels, and try the Sand Trap Cream Ale from New Heights Brewing Company. Purchase your tickets now at SimmonsBankOpen.com.
Genesis Diamond's spectacular spring extravaganza is coming. April 22nd through 24th. 3 incredible days of store-wide savings. Up to 35% off engagement rings, earrings, bracelets, wedding bands, plus special financing. Even Genesis GIA certified diamonds are marked down. Plus, top jewelry designers are flying in with all new amazing designs. If you're popping the question soon or just looking for some new sparkle, you can't miss this annual event. Save up to $10,000 on some items. It's April 22nd through 24th and only at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs. See store for details.
From curriculum-based literacy programs and sport leagues to college tours and workforce readiness tracks, Boys and Girls Clubs of Middle Tennessee provide a safe place where youth gain the tools to learn, lead, and reach their full potential. You can support local youth and their great futures by donating at bgcmt.org.
Out on the trail today, I noticed the signs of spring. A purple lilac, a monarch butterfly, crisp, cool air, and fresh, bright sunshine. And all this beauty puts me in the mood to head over to my favorite adult beverage depot, Red Spirits and Wine, where I can load up the wagon with the best wines, whiskey, and brews to wet my whistle. At Red, you'll always find the best selection and value, but their Cracker Jack crew is flat out second to none. Just square-dealing folks and straight shooters with great recommendations, and they never come off like some of those big-talking fancy pantsers that are just totally full of, well, let's just say fertilizer. Red Spirits and Wine is the only place I do my trading, and once you've seen Red, there just ain't no sense in looking elsewhere. It's like British pop singer Billy Ocean once said, no more love on the run. Red Spirits and Wine is the real deal. Open 7 days a week at Highway 70 South and Old Hickory Boulevard. And follow Red on Facebook and Instagram as well. We'll see you at Red.
Get in on the conversation at 615-737-1025. The game text line is driven by Wilson County Hyundai. Online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com.
Meet your new one-stop shop for anything and everything Delta 8. D8 Superstore has Delta 8 vapes, gummies, dabs, flour, and more. Backed by their years of extensive product research and testing, they offer the best prices, selection, and quality on the market. Get free shipping on every order with customer support that responds in minutes. So don't wait. Try their Delta 8. Shop with us at d8superstore.com.
If you've missed any of today's show, just search Stillman and Company on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform.
Back now come the Sharks. Holding on to it. How did he make that stop? UC Saros just did an incredible split with his legs going across the entire goal crease, right side and left, as he stopped Tomas Hertl with 1:06 gone in the overtime.
I literally was sitting right there when that happened, and I was like, they're going to lose this freaking game. I mean,
I thought you didn't doubt it for a second.
I clearly was screwing with people. I mean, they're going to lose this game to this team. And I'm the one who's going to have to eat the words for it because they didn't show up. And then I got to tell you what bothered me. Everybody after the game, this is one thing I hate about the NFL. And I feel it as a fan, but I hate it, which is I'm a big process person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, did you try your hardest?
Right.
Did you give your best effort? Did you do what it takes to be successful and the result just not end your way? I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm not okay with is people that don't give their best effort, and then it's like, oh, shucks.
And then complain about not getting to the end goal.
But one thing I hate about the NFL is that, like, fans' opinions of players and coaches are all determined upon win or lose. Like, if the guy makes a field goal, then you feel better about Tannehill than you wouldn't if the guy missed the field goal. I've never seen anything like it. Like, what's the guy kicking the field goal have to do with Tannehill? It has nothing to do with Tannehill. But everybody's feelings towards the Titans, the coach, the team, like, it's all about whether or not the guy makes the field goal. I mean, we sit here and we think Phillip Rivers with the Colts wasn't that good. They lost by 3 points at Buffalo. Hot Rod missed a field goal. I mean, like, and so it's like we win, everybody's great. We lose, everybody stinks. And I don't love that. Like, I'm all about the process. Remember when the Titans beat the Colts? And I was like, boy, they didn't play well. And people were like, Jared, we won. And I'm like, I know, but Tannehill threw the ball right in the middle of the field and got intercepted, and you can't do that and play winning football. And then they do those things against the Steelers, and they lose, and it's like, oh, they're terrible, he's terrible, it's terrible. And I'm like, yeah. You know, like, that's the thing. So on Saturday, they played the Florida Panthers. They lost 4-1, but again, it was really a 2-1 game. And I thought the Predators were very competitive, and Florida is the best, if not the best, second best team in the NHL. And John Hines, after the game, was upset with how they played. Here's what John Hines said on Saturday.
We had some looks, but I think in general, you know, overall in the game, you know, that's a team that played last night. I just thought that, you know, they played the game that they needed to play to win the game. And tonight I expected more from our team in general.
More physicality or anything specific?
I thought the pace in which we played with, I thought the competitive level that we played with, I thought our execution, with the puck needed to be better. I thought we were just average, and we're not a team that can play average and win.
Okay, so John Hines basically craps on everything Saturday when they lose 2-1 to the best team in the league. They win 1-0 yesterday in overtime. The goalie saves their bacon twice in overtime.
Mm-hmm.
And John Hines, after the game, against this terrible San Jose team that has been eliminated from the playoffs, that has now lost, 7 in a row? They've lost 7 in a row. You beat them 8-0 a month ago. How did John Hines feel about last night's game?
There's certainly no easy nights. I think particularly this time of year, they're all hard, I think, as we've seen coming down the stretch here. I think the big thing for me is that I really liked our team's mental preparation tonight. I think when you look at the start of the game, the commitment level that we played with and without the puck, we iced the game that should give you a chance to win night in and night out, regardless of the opponent. And I think we've learned some lessons in the past that maybe we haven't iced the game that gives us the best chance to win, regardless of who we play. I thought tonight we did that, and it was a hard-fought battle. And we knew coming in that the last time we played San Jose, it was a little bit of a blowout. So they're going to come in more committed, some different players in the lineup. But I really compliment our guys tonight on being ready for the game and willing to accept the challenge as the game continued to unfold, what that challenge presented.
I don't care when Johnny Joe in the 300 level feels that way. We win, yeah, we're great. We lose, we stink. When the coach is doing it, I find it to be annoying. I find it to be almost like not living in reality.
And that part where he says, we figured that they would come in here a little bit more committed this time around, why would you think that?
Well, because they got their asses kicked the last time.
Well, it's not like they're playing for anything now. Are you just playing for your dignity so you don't get blown out 8-0 this time?
What did Hal call it yesterday? Playing guilty?
Playing guilty if they win
you're
out on Broadway.
Yeah, because you went out, you're staying in the team motel, you're not giving a crap about the game. So you feel kind of guilty. You feel like you got to play hard.
You got to go out and play hard because they broke the rules.
They're paying you money to play.
Yeah.
You need to go out there. Right.
I'm sure there might be a little bit of an element of that, but I don't think that's, necessarily a justification as to what happened last night.
I just hate this sense of we lost. Everything wasn't good enough. They played the game they wanted to play. They came in here and possessed the puck. That's because they have better players. That's why they, last year, were one of the best teams in the league, and this year are one of the best teams in the league. They were up there all last year with Carolina and Tampa Bay as far as that division that the Predators played in last year was concerned. They're the second best team, I believe, in the league right now. The Florida Panthers are freaking good. And the San Jose Sharks are terrible. And it's he's clearly frustrated on Saturday when they lost. And then yesterday, I compliment our guys. For what? I mean,
their mental preparation.
Seriously. I mean, I compliment the goalie.
Oh, yeah.
Goalie played his tail off.
He's the one that saved that game in overtime.
I mean, am I complimenting Colton Sissons for missing the net? Am I complimenting Mikhail Granlund for turning over the puck or not being able to win a meaningful faceoff in overtime? What am I complimenting? And it's just, again, I don't mind when, I say I don't mind. It drives me crazy when fans do this because I'm the one who interacts with the fans on a daily basis.
Uh-huh.
When it's let's say the Titans were to go into a battle with Buffalo and win by 1 point. Or lose by 1 point. They won by 1 point last year, but let's say they lose by 1 point, and then they were to go into a matchup with Houston and win, by 1 point.
Mm-hmm.
It's I would feel better about losing to Buffalo by 1 point than I would be about beating Houston by 1 point because Houston sucks. And this idea of watching last night's game and I love it, and I get in the car and Joe was talking about it was a good game the Predators played. The puck just didn't bounce their way, and I can't do that. We talk about the playoffs. Have you seen the rest of the schedule that's coming up the rest of the way?
I mean, it's a grind.
McDavid and Draisaitl will score 5 goals each if you play the way you played last night, where you just turn the puck over, especially if you do that stuff in overtime. I mean, that overtime was awful. I was sitting there thinking that they were going to drop the puck in overtime. They were going to pass it back. Predators were going to go inside the zone. They were going to get a couple cracks at it. San Jose might come down, a little 3-on-3, and you hope that someone doesn't shake loose like Crosby did the other day. Instead, it's breakaway San Jose, and then somehow, some way the Predators won
and
together.
Saros just saved their butts.
I mean, and look, I understand. I understand how everybody feels. But, look, winning, let's not kid ourselves. Winning is so much more important, especially this time of the year, than losing. I'm not sitting here. I'm just saying, I would have been nuclear if they had lost that game last night. And they almost did. And this reminds me, my basketball coach, William Bellaford, who's now the head coach at Antioch High School. Coach Bellaford used to tell us, it's funny because we joked about this, But we played a team that wasn't very good one time, and like we were just going through the motions. And he said at halftime, a team that's not even supposed to be in the game with you is in the game with you.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to laugh about that. And then about 2 years later, we did the same thing. And he said the same thing. And when the Titans were, screwing around with the Colts this year in that game where Carson Wentz couldn't move and they didn't have any offensive linemen and they didn't have any receivers and the Titans turned the ball over and let the Colts back in the game, I literally texted him at halftime. And I was like, I could just hear you saying in my head that a team that's not supposed to be in the game with you is in the game with you. And that's how I felt yesterday watching that San Jose game. And then to just hear everybody afterwards, played great, compliment the guys, they were awesome. I mean, we had the commitment level, our mental focus, our attitude, dude, it's San Jose. It's not like you went out there and you battled Clayton Kershaw and knocked him out of the game in the third inning. It's San Jose. And I don't think I'm being too critical. I think I'm just like, let's keep it real. Good thing they won. Move on tomorrow.
The points are important. That's the most important thing about that game.
It seems like they play up to their opponents. They play down, so they'll play up to Florida. They'll play up tomorrow to Edmonton.
Right, which is an encouraging thing looking at the rest of their schedule.
But, oh, man, was I underwhelmed by yesterday. Oh, was I overwhelmed.
It was frustrating.
So frustrating.
Just like looking at all of the opportunities that they could have had was incredibly frustrating. I still am not too discouraged by it, but it was incredibly frustrating.
All right, take your phones next. 615-737-1025. Your thoughts on the game last night. Caroline and Ian are not as, I should say, bewildered by last night's game as I am, but it also doesn't sound like you guys are overly thrilled either.
No,
I wouldn't say thrilled. No, I mean it did feel like they should probably have more goals than they did, but they only gave up 25 shots and they pretty much dominated the play. So it didn't really feel like they were in danger of necessarily getting blown out or letting the game slip away. Maybe they could have got a late goal, and they would have stolen it, but it didn't look like they were getting outplayed at all.
No, it just didn't look like they were outplaying San Jose that much either, in my opinion. I think they kept the puck in San Jose's end, but other than that, I didn't feel, overly dominant about it. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. You know what is thrilling? This weekend, we celebrate the career of Terrence Arthur Crisp. That's right. Join us Saturday as we put the band back together as Pete Weber is joined by Crispy to call on the action on the radio right here against Chicago. Then they will shift to the TV booth for Sunday against the Blues, and Crispy will be honored during the game in a special ceremony, and you will not want to miss it. And Crispy will be joining us tomorrow, as he always does, and we will be highlighting his impact with the Predators and the city of Nashville and everything else. So, again, this weekend is Crispy weekend. If I could get a patch made to put on my shirt to wear this weekend, I would in honor of Crispy. I freaking love the guy. 615-737-1025, Stillman & Company. It's ESPN 1025 The Game.
This weekend, we celebrate the career of the one and only Terry Crisp. Join us Saturday as we put the band back together as Pete Weber is joined by Crispy to call the action on radio against Chicago.
We're all excited. They're excited. The team's excited.
Then they shift to the TV booth for Sunday against the Blues, and Crispy will be honored during the game in a special ceremony.
We got wonderful memories through hockey. We got wonderful friends through hockey.
Congrats, Crispy, from ESPN 1025 The Game.
Calling a criminal defense lawyer or a divorce lawyer, you may think it's the worst day of your life. It doesn't have to be. If you have quality, competent representation who can guide you through a complex system, we can do that for you. Despite if you've been arrested for a DUI or a robbery charge, whether or not you're going through a divorce or a post-divorce, or demanding your fundamental constitutional right to parent your children. 615-604-6263. AmandaJGentry.com.
Spring has sprung, which means it's time to renew your home with Social Furniture. It's their Spring Fling sale, where all furniture is up to 50% off. That's right, up to 50% off on top name brands such as Serta, Sealy, Simmons, Caracol, Bernhardt, and Woodhouse. At Social Furniture, you'll find new bedroom furniture, mattresses, and sofas, all up to 50% off. Spring into Social Furniture today on Charlotte Avenue in West Nashville. Shop local, shop social. Social Furniture is a proud supporter of your Nashville Predators.
Did you know that about 80% of new home buyers don't ever shop around for the best mortgage loan? That's a huge mistake. Hey, Willie Donick here. Listen, not all mortgages are created equal, and I'm here to prove it with Loan Pronto. People who use Loan Pronto save on average $3,500 just in closing costs. On top of that, they get a better rate, which saves them thousands more every year. Your banker or agents go to Lender. They're fine people, but don't assume they're giving you the best deal. Call Loan Pronto for a quick second opinion or go to loanpronto.com. I'll bet they can get you a better loan, a lower rate, without all those annoying closing costs. What have you got to lose? You compare costs on everything else in your life. Why not do the same with your mortgage? Call 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
In the NBA play-in tournament, there are no sure things except one. Bet at least $20 in same-game parlays on FanDuel Sportsbook, and you'll get an instant bonus, win or lose. Joe Rexrode here to let you know, not only do you get to enjoy the NBA's best duking it out for the right to advance to the playoffs, but FanDuel's giving all customers a bonus for getting in on the action. Oh, and the more you bet, the bigger your bonus. I think the 8-seed Clippers look really good to advance. Of course, there's so many different things you can do. Same game parlays. Check that popular same game parlays tab on FanDuel. That's one that we've pre-assembled. A lot of fans can get in on that and really do well. FanDuel is an official partner of the NBA. The app is safe. It's easy to use. Trust me there. And you get your winnings fast. If you're new to FanDuel, sign up today with promo code Joe102 and make every moment more. Don't just watch the NBA play-in tournament. Be a part of it. Bet at least $20 in same-game parlays and get an instant bonus, win or lose. You must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. Bonus issued is now available with free bets that expire in 7 days. Max bonus $100. Restrictions apply. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line, 800-899-789.
Circle up, team. We've got status.
Evelyn's marketing consultancy client roster is skyrocketing.
Okay, so this week is a biggie. We've got the pitch and 3 client meetings.
She needs another analyst before her team's free time plummets.
Who's running the competitive analysis on fruit snacks?
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Our hiring platform instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
ESPN's Turon Davenport breaks down the Titans like no other.
On the field chemistry, I don't think it's going to be a problem. It's just going to be a process.
Catch TD Mondays at 11, Thursdays at 3, and Fridays at 8. Plus, the Talking with TD podcast drops every Wednesday.
When you draft players, it's not just for one season, it's for a career.
Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, this is Pete Weber. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk. ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Great effort by our group. Just stuck with it the whole time. Wasn't getting any puck luck tonight. Nothing was easy, and just had to keep pressing, keep playing. And Juice was a stud. Obviously, they had some chances, and when they did, he was there. And 2 points, got that, and that's all that matters.
Boy, that was Ryan Johansson last night after the game. Let me say this. I'm not sure that's very good, like, for a radio show.
Awfully
like
spirited from Ryan Johansson.
The attitude. And I'm not saying Johansson's wrong to feel that way, though I disagree about last night's game. But, hey, they played okay, and they, had some opportunities, and the other team had some opportunities.
Didn't have any puck luck.
Juice was great last night. And,
he was.
Let's take your phone calls. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, and our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. Nate's been waiting patiently. He's going to kick us off today. Go ahead, Nate.
Afternoon, y'all. No, the Preds did not play well yesterday, but that can be the byproduct of the other team playing looser and the team that is fighting for a playoff spot is playing tighter and is trying to push it more, which that means they could overplay. And I think some of that actually happened last night.
Thank you for your call, Nate. You buy it?
No. I think if you are fighting for a playoff spot, you are 1 point ahead of not making the playoffs. You have to play your absolute hardest. Like, I don't buy the fact that the Preds.
Well, he's saying they were gripping the sticks too tight.
I don't buy the fact that the Preds were just a little bit antsy and nervous about the game last night because they're fighting for a playoff spot. Absolutely not. No. You have to do whatever it takes to win those games. And albeit the Predators did win, the Predators did get the points that they needed. But I'm not going to justify the performance last night with they were a little nervous.
Ian, you buy it?
Maybe a little, but I think I buy more so, I don't know. I think a lot of the league, I don't know if this is true or not, but it feels like there's a lot of teams who are just straight up, they're just tired. and fatigued. I think there's a lot of fatigue that's going on around in the NHL right now because of the whole condensed schedule and reschedules of COVID. And I think there's a lot of teams where they just don't have the legs that they're used to having, and they're just mentally not as focused.
That and the caller's take both leave me for this question. So then what's going to happen in the playoffs? Like, so if you're gripping the sticks too tight right now against San Jose, when even if you lost the game, you still would be in pretty fair shape to make the playoffs. Yeah. What's going to happen when you get to the playoffs? Are you going to be less nervous then?
And are you going to be less tired then whenever you have
That's the other part.
Consistent
you're going
games
out
and
to
consistent
Calgary.
travel?
You're going to Calgary, and then you're coming back from Calgary, and then you're going back to Calgary, and then you're coming back from Calgary, and then you go to Calgary. Then you fly from Calgary to either Los Angeles or Edmonton. And then you are going from Edmonton. You are going from Edmonton to Nashville. To Edmonton to Nashville, back to Edmonton. Like, I mean, it doesn't get easier from here. That's the point.
But I think another thing is, too, it's not just the Predators that would be doing that. I mean, at this point, everyone's gassed. And in the playoffs, everyone's tired and everyone is traveling.
All I know is in 2016, the Predators went 7 with the Anaheim. So it was Anaheim, Nashville.
Yep.
Anaheim, Nashville, Anaheim, San Jose, Nashville, San Jose, Nashville, San Jose. And I didn't hear the Sharks complain at all, and they ended up in the Cup final. And, like, when the Predators lost, it was like, boy, I'll tell you, that travel just took it all out of us. And then the next year, when they beat Chicago in 4 games, and then they went to St. Louis, 2 flights that are like an hour apart,
they're like 30 seconds.
Those 2 flights, it was, hey, everybody's feeling great.
But yeah, because they're shorter flights.
Because it's like, yeah, everybody's
shorter
great.
flights.
Well, guess what? If Edmonton is playing Los Angeles, or if Los Angeles is playing Vegas, or something like that, look at their flights and compare them to Nashville.
I mean, yeah, it would be a long flight to Edmonton.
But it wouldn't be as long for Los Angeles.
No, it would not.
So if Los Angeles is in the second round and you're having to do all the flying, you've already had to fly to Calgary.
Are you upset about geography?
No, I'm just telling you, like, this is a reality come the playoffs about, teams are really tired. Like, I got it.
I mean, it's fair. It's fair to say that teams are absolutely gassed at this point. I think that we've seen, a microcosm of that, just UC Saros himself, just absolutely exhausted. It's not something that's unique to the Predators. It's something that you have to deal with. It's something that's inevitable in the NHL, especially in the playoffs.
Adam is in Portland and is up next. Sorry to cut you off. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, so number one, the Sharks have Nick Bonino. So there's always that. And he's still a good player. But what about that Borowiecki last night, man? That's all I care about. You can get upset or not upset about how they played. They ended up winning. I told you that was not a lock. You're like, lock it up, put it in.
I locked it up because they won. Man. I was right.
Nobody's a lock, though, dude. That's what I'm saying. But what about that Borowiecki getting in a fight the night after he gets his face busted open, teeth knocked out? He wore that dude's butt out last night, too. Didn't
he get in multiple fights last night?
Had 2 fights last night.
Yeah, I mean, here, let me say something.
To watch.
Adam, I appreciate your call. We wonder why the refs assumed a penalty on Borowiecki before the fight was with Evgeny Malkin. That's why.
Well, that doesn't make it okay.
No, it doesn't, but that's why. Like, yesterday, Darren was talking to us after the show about, like, they should fire those refs. And I'm like, yeah, but, like, LeBron gets star treatment, and Evgeny Malkin is going to the Hall of Fame, and Mark Borowiecki is not. And I also have a problem with a guy who missed an extended period of time last year because he had, like, post-concussion syndrome, getting in fights every game. Like, if I need you to play, I need you to not get hurt. So Jeannot got in a fight last night.
Mm-hmm.
And I see, Hines was all, we got selfless guys out there that'll take one for the team.
I don't need Tanner Jeannot taking one for the team.
I don't need fights. Like, I mean, like, fights are fine. I don't.
Well, and that's the kind of, like, the style of hockey that the Predators want to play.
I think the same people
physical hockey
that like to fly over the stadium are the same people who like the fights. And so I don't like the flyover over the stadium. I think it's pointless.
I think it's cool.
America!
Freedom!
That's like, I was almost embarrassed at the Stadium Series game when they did the national anthem and, like, Russia had invaded Ukraine like 4 days before this, or 2 days before this. and they sing the national anthem, and all of a sudden the stadium just starts chanting USA, USA. I'm like, we're not even in this war. Like, what are we?
Yeah, but we're in the United States, and that's pretty damn cool.
Again,
Woo!
It's like, grown men brought to tears over the freaking flyovers. And I think that's how people feel about fights, where they're like, fight! And I mean, I get up to, like, when they fight. Like, I'm not,
Yeah, it's awesome.
But I'm not, like, this time of the year, like, I'm not giving Nick Cousins a pat on the back because he got in a fight.
And, like, to Adam's point, saying, like, watching him last night, that was awesome.
I don't care about the game that we almost lost to that terrible team, but let me tell you about Borowiecki getting in a couple of fights.
Borowiecki had stitches in his lip, and he was throwing bows and dropping his gloves. Okay, Borowiecki is out. What's the alternative? Harper?
I was going to say, where I'm from, like, is that smart or is that stupid?
That's stupid.
Okay.
Yeah, that is stupid. To have stitches in your mouth and get into 2 fights 2 days later, that's stupid.
What's the text line have? 615-737-1025.
Wayne from Spring Hill texts in and says at least Calgary and Edmonton are only 1 hour behind Nashville and not 2 like LA if they do travel there.
That is true. And I've never actually been to Calgary, and I've never been to Edmonton. I've been to Vancouver.
Heard good things.
Vancouver's awesome. But I have never been to Calgary or Edmonton, and if my life passes me and I don't go there, like, I'll be okay with it.
I've heard Calgary's cool.
Sure. But, again, like, the one drawback of the great race for 4th place that we are all so very excited about, the one drawback with this is, again, the idea that you're going to have to do all the travel that in 2016 they just swore away from. Like, they wanted no part of.
Mm-hmm.
And they bragged about, all of the, the short flights that they were really happy about the following year. And then I do believe that all the travel in the Winnipeg series in 2018 took a lot out of Winnipeg because that was billed as the 2 best teams taking one another on. And it was a very physical 7-game series back and forth to Winnipeg, which is far as hell away from. And in the end, Vegas, who had kind of an easier road, wasn't better than Winnipeg that year. Vegas beat Winnipeg in 5 games. And it was kind of like, maybe Winnipeg was gassed after their series with the Predators. So all that's on the table. But, I mean, still, they were gripping the sticks too tight. Oh, God.
I don't buy it.
615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Mel Kiper Jr. has a new mock draft out. Chris Sanders, I think, will love the pick. We'll get to him and his thoughts on that coming up next. Tickets for the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix August 5th through the 7th are on sale now. 1025 The Game has your chance to win 3A passes to the Music City Grand Prix. Just text the word RACE, R-A-C-E, to the game text line at 615-737-1025 to get qualified to win. More details on the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix can be found at musiccitygp.com.
From Fox 17 News, this is a Code Red weather alert.
Strong to severe storms will be possible this afternoon, evening, and moving through the mid-state as we head overnight, so make sure you stay weather aware. I'm Fox 17 News Code Red meteorologist Jan Guthrie.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Listen to Stillman and Company with me, Caroline Fenton, all season long on ESPN 102.5 The Game for your chance to win Nashville Sounds tickets courtesy of 312 Pizza Company in Germantown.
Finishing jobs on time, never being idle, and powerful equipment. Meade has the John Deere excavating equipment and the smart grade technology solutions for you and your business. Power your business with a new, used, or rented excavator and get the performance you expect and service you can rely on. Call us today for the equipment built as tough and reliable as you, or visit us at meadtractor.com. That's meadtractor.com.
At Copper Branch, they live life to the fullest. Food is your energy and your life. Located in the heart of downtown Nashville, their goal is to serve you, your friends, and family quality, great-tasting, plant-based power foods. Visit Copper Branch at 601 Church Street for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with convenient and validated parking during library hours, and download their app for curbside pickup. Or come out for songwriter and live music nights several times throughout the week to empower, energize, and feel your best. Visit Copper Branch today.
Smokeville Smoke Shop has been serving Hendersonville and Metro Nashville since 2015 and is committed to providing high-quality, hands-on, and personable customer service. Stop into Smokeville Smoke Shops in Hendersonville, Gallatin, Hermitage, and Goodlettsville to try any of their wide selection of locally sourced products and selection of top nationwide brands, including vapes, hookah, hand-blown glass, detox systems, e-juices, kratom products, leaf wraps, and much more. Visit Smokeville Smoke Shops today.
Erectile dysfunction ruins sex, but it's more than that. It harms otherwise good relationships. It destroys marriages. It can cause depression and anxiety, and it can be extremely hard on a man's self-esteem. This is Kim for the Tennessee Men's Clinic, and if you're suffering with ED, if it's affecting you, I want you to know that if you're like most men, we can treat it and get you back to the man you used to be. At the Tennessee Men's Clinic, we're ED experts. Our protocols have success rates as high as 90%. We've successfully treated thousands of men in the Music City, and we have a variety of treatment options and treatment combinations that could have you performing like you haven't in years. You could even last up to an hour and experience great sex again that is satisfying for both you and your partner. In treating your health, expertise matters, so make an appointment today. Your initial appointment is only $99 and includes blood work and a medical consult. Call 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Visit our website to learn more, including side effects, treatments extra, results vary.
Meshing journalism.
They are 2 scores behind you. The math says that increases your chances of winning.
With sports fandom.
I stayed up till 1:30 in the morning, just emotionally numb from Titans and Packers.
And sarcasm.
You guys are the worst.
Robby Stanley and Joe Rexrode are Robby and Rexrode. No duh. Weekday mornings from 6 to 10. Brought to you by Little Guys Movers on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Watch live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube.
This is Stillman and Company, delivered by TriStar Moving.
This week's Nashville's best deal is 312 Pizza Company. 312 Pizza Company serves the best pizza in town, as well as Chicago-style eats like Chicago dogs, Italian beef sandwiches, and more. Head to thegamenashville.com/deals now to get half off a $30 gift card to 312 Pizza Company while supplies last. So Mel Kiper Jr. has a new mock draft out. He has the Titans with the 26th pick taking Jahan Dotson, the wide receiver out of Penn State. Now, I don't know much about Jahan Dotson. I don't watch a lot of tape of college players, don't act like I do. But Bill Polian, I thought, gave Jahan Dotson an unbelievable compliment yesterday on SiriusXM NFL Radio. Here's what Bill Polian said about Mel Kiper's latest pick for the Titans.
Jahan Dotson from Penn State, he might go in the first round because he can really run. He's a legitimate 4.4 guy, but he's 5'11", 184. So he's been really productive at Penn State. Very quick, great separator, great run after catch. He's got 6 touchdowns of plus 60 yards. So he can go down the field and he can run after the catch. There may be people who would go up in the bottom of the first to get him. Although the size is that's Marvin Harrison's size. When Marvin Harrison was the 17th pick in the draft.
So, I mean, saying that's Marvin Harrison's size, and Marvin Harrison is the 17th pick in the draft, and, well, Marvin Harrison was a Hall of Fame wide receiver for Bill Polian in Indianapolis. So I saw that. I don't know much about Dotson, but I hear Bill Polian say that about Jahan Dotson. I get a little excited. Chris Sanders joins us, former Titans receiver. Chris, your thoughts on Mel Kiper's mock draft? We're 2 weeks and 1 day away from the NFL draft. Your thoughts on Mel mocking Jahan Dotson to the Titans in what might be a loaded wide receiver class?
Yeah, it's loaded. I mean, there's a lot of great wide receivers, especially one from Penn State. And just like what Mel Kiper talked about, he may not have the size, but the one thing I love about him, he's a polished receiver. He's got great hands. He's fast, and he's just a technician. But, man, I'm looking across the board. There's one guy that a lot of people are not talking about, but is a real beast, is the guy from Georgia, George Pickens. I mean, he is a freaking dog. He's big, he's physical, he's fast. I know the reason why nobody's really talking about him a lot because of his attitude outside of football. But other than that, man, it's a rich, rich class of wide receivers, man.
Do you think that the way it's breaking that the Titans will have a chance to pick one of these receivers, or are you worried about all these teams that are going to try to replace receivers like the Raiders or the Packers or Kansas City, that they would go in there and jump ahead of the Titans and pick those receivers?
Yeah, I mean, they could, but there's still a whole bunch more. I mean, you got Drake London from USC, you got Garrett Wilson from Ohio State, and this is one guy that really intrigues me that a lot of people may pass over. That might be sitting at 26, but will the Titans take a chance on him? Is Jamison Williams from Alabama. I understand he got hurt in the bowl game, but if he's sitting there, do the Tennessee Titans take them? And then you got Olave from The Ohio State University, who's a polished receiver. You got Traylon Burks from Arkansas. It's just a rich class of wide receivers. So just like what you said, if those teams jump up and get those receivers like Garrett and Olave and Drake London, there's still a whole bunch more receivers that can come in and play wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans.
Chris Anderson is our guest here on the program. What do you think about the quarterbacks in this class as far as the Titans are concerned? I think it's pretty obvious that they won't have a shot at Willis or Pickett, but what do you think after that?
I think it's okay. I mean, you got Desmond Ridder, you got Matt Corral. All these guys are okay wide receivers. But when you start looking at the draft at wide receivers, you got to look and see who has that it factor. And when
you mean quarterbacks?
What's that?
You mean quarterbacks?
Quarterbacks, yes, that it factor. Yeah, I mean, and the one guy that has that it factor is Kenny Pickett. I mean, but I don't know if he's going to be there. And I just think that you just don't want to take a risk on this class because they're good quarterbacks, but there's nobody that jumps out on the page at you. And I say that respectfully. Yeah, Desmond Ridder's a good quarterback, but his accuracy struggles a little bit. Then you have Carson Strong, but he deals with injuries and lack of mobility. So if they do pick a quarterback, you got to make sure he has the it factor. And the only it factor that I see in this class is Kenny Pickett. He's got something about him.
Chris, what do you make of the offensive line? Because in Mel Kiper's latest mock draft, 3 guys, Green from Texas A&M, who a lot of people say is maybe the best guard in the draft, Linderbaum, the center out of Iowa, and Zion Johnson, the guard out of Boston College, who played with Vrabel's son, are all available for the Titans at 26, and he still has the Titans going receiver. You're a receiver, but you know how important the offensive line is. What do you think about with those 3 guys and the possibility of John Robinson shoring up the holes on the offensive line in the draft?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely going to address that, and those names that you named are great players, but there's one guy that I really, really love is Trevor Penning from Northern Iowa. I mean, this guy is mean. He's a dog. He's smart. He's versatile, and he can play so many positions. So if those guys come off the board, then I think you still have some guys that you can take. Just like you said, Kenny Green, even the guy Yvonne Neal from Alabama. You got Marquise Hayes from Oklahoma, who's big and fast, and they can have a good punch. But at the end of the day, you better get somebody that comes in and play right away because we don't know what Ray is going to bring to this Tennessee Titans team.
Yeah, Chris Andrews is our guest, former Titans receiver. You were taken in the 3rd round in 1995. You've told the story about how you were surprised to be taken by the Oilers. We're following John Robinson, where he's going to pro day, who he's talking to. How much weight should we put into that when you compare it to your own situation?
I don't think you put much weight into it because the funny thing about my process is, when I got drafted by the Houston Oilers / Tennessee Titans, I never talked to Houston. I thought I was going to get drafted by the Washington Redskins, and the guy that was interviewing me a lot was Terry Rabisky. He talked to me about coverages and tell me about this and, tell me about the city and all those things. But then all of a sudden, the 67th pick of the 3rd round, I got drafted by the Tennessee Titans, who I've never talked to. I don't even remember doing an interview with them. But at the end of the day, I guess they wasn't expecting I was going to be there, or they said I was the highest rated at that time. So every general manager is different. I think they're going to go with the guy that's available, that's best for their team.
Chris Sanders is our guest. On defense, what do the Titans need to do, or do we think they're set?
I think we're kind of set up front, but I think the one thing we're going to have to do is get depth at the defensive back position. You have Caleb Farley. They saying his offseason has been great, but we don't know how he's going to do at the back. Do you have Fulton? And then after that, who else do you have? They definitely need to address that. I think one of the guys that's pretty good in the draft is Marcus Jones from Houston, and you have Alontae Taylor from the University of Tennessee, guys that are long that can come in and play right away. So I think that the Tennessee Titans are basically set up front. I just think that they need more depth in the secondary.
Chris, around the league, I look at kind of how teams are doing business and what their goals are in the draft and things like that. How hard do you think it is to read what other teams are going to do? And if you were running a draft board or looking at prospects, how much would you factor that in, or how much would you factor in who's best for the Titans?
I mean, I would factor in who's best for the Tennessee Titans because, I mean, if you look at the last drafts and the drafts before that, you know, the guy you thought, the team that you thought was going to pick a certain guy, they go totally opposite of what happened. I think it was a couple of years ago when I think we had I think it was a couple of years ago when the Raiders picked a defensive end. I can't remember his name, and I'm like, whoa, why would you pick him when you got these other guys in front of you? So I just think that teams are going to pick the identity of what fits their scheme. So I don't think the Tennessee Titans are going to focus on what other teams do. They're going to focus on who they grade at the highest that's available at that point.
Though that was a terrible pick. Cleveland Farrell, 4th overall
that's
in 29.
what it is.
I mean, that was a horrendous pick by the Raiders.
Like, what? And they said they wanted to pick him for the identity of the team, but we're like, what the heck? So it's kind of things like that.
How much do you take stock in John Robinson not going to any of the pro days, Chris Sanders, of the quarterbacks? Do you think that means they're out on quarterback, or do you think that, you know, they're trying to not make it obvious which quarterback they like? How do you read into that?
No, I mean, I don't think that because he's not there that that's going to factor anything. I know there's some different coaches that went to go see it to make sure they evaluate him, and they're going to let John Robinson know. But I'm going to tell you something, and I'm not saying Kenny Pickett's going to be there or, you know, Sam Howell for North Carolina. But if those guys are sitting there, I can't guarantee, but it'll be a 95% case that they're going to take a quarterback, you know, at the 26th position. So I don't want us to get, you know, all caught up with John Robinson's not here, John Robinson not there. At the end of the day, guys are going to do their homework. The scouts are going to do what they need to do, and they're going to get the information to him. They're going to look at tape, and they're going to pick the most available quarterback if they do go that route.
Why do you love Sam Howell so much?
What's that?
Why do you like Sam Howell so much?
Sam, I mean, he's got good pocket awareness. And I think he's a pocket passer. I mean, he's got good pocket awareness. He's smart. And the one thing that he has that a lot of quarterbacks don't have is poise. When you have poise at the college level, when you have poise at the pro level, then it makes your team better around you.
Chris Sanders, former Titans receiver. He is the best. Joining
You're
us
the best,
on
my
the program.
guy.
Chris, I know you want him to go receiver. I know.
Absolutely.
I know.
Olave, Garrett, let's go.
Now, they're not going to be able to get those guys.
They might.
No.
Drop. If they drop, they better.
They will not drop.
Jump to the podium.
There is no shot that those guys drop.
I bet you 26 cents that they get one of those guys.
26 cents.
26
cents. Really reaching into those pockets there.
That is some big money. Chris Sanders, former Titans receiver, as always.
You
Chris,
guys.
appreciate you, bud.
You always. Bye-bye.
You know what's so funny is all these draft prospects, you just hear so many different things from so many different people.
And they could be completely different. One guy they love, it's going to be a value pick. His stock is rising. Great pocket passer, great mobility, and then another person might be afraid of his size and think that he should drop. I mean, these draft gurus can give whatever their opinion is, but when it comes down to it, how do the teams feel about them?
Coming up next, there is one situation that I'm kind of struggling with that a couple weeks ago I was gung-ho about, and I'm struggling with it for the Titans. We'll get to that coming up next. Caroline, though, wants to tell you about Caesar Sportsbook.
Yes, I do. It is time for the Caesar Sportsbook report. So Caesar Sportsbook is giving a feast to its new users. And by feast, I mean a $250 Uber Eats gift card. Here's how it works. Just bet $50 for your first bet, and win or lose, you'll get a $250 digital gift card for Uber Eats. Make sure you use promo code RADIOEAT, one word, Radio Eat, and you'll qualify for a $250 digital gift card for Uber Eats. So if you need something to put that first bet on, take a look at the NFL draft because there have been some major shifts in the first wide receiver taken. So whenever the bets did first come out, Garrett Wilson opened as a plus 125 favorite for the first wide receiver taken, and Drake London opened at plus 130. They are still neck and neck, but shifted just slightly, sitting at plus 130 and plus 135 respectively. But one massive seismic shift in the possible first wide receiver taken is Jameson Williams, who opened as a plus 900 favorite to be the first wide receiver taken and is now up to plus 400. Actually, 46% of the dollars wagered on Caesar Sportsbook for the first wide receiver taken has been put on Jameson Williams. So if you think that some teams are willing to look past his ACL tear, then I would say put some money on Jameson Williams as the first wide receiver taken in this draft. Must be 21 and physically present in Tennessee. New customers with eligible promo code only. Real money wagers only that have minimum odds of minus 200. $250 gift card redemption code and steps to redeem gift card will be sent via email within 72 hours. Uber gift card terms and conditions apply. See Caesars.com/promos for full terms. Void where prohibited. Gambling problem? Call or text the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789. Caesars Sportsbook. Download it, people.
The voice of reason.
No, you blew it. That's what happened. It didn't slip away. You blew it.
The voice of the fan.
The officials had let that game get out of control before anything got thrown.
The voice of Nashville sports is your home of Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Genesis Diamond's most anticipated event of the year is coming next weekend, April 22nd through 24th. Huge store-wide savings, plus thousands of new, unique designs from the biggest names in jewelry. All new collections, 2 years in the making, from names like Tacori, Verragio, and more. Rings, earrings, pendants, bands, many never seen before, and all specially priced for this 3-day event. Save up to 35%, zero interest financing. Bring your old jewelry and trade up. April 22nd through 24th, only at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills, and Cool Springs.
Parman Energy is your one-stop petroleum solution across all of Tennessee, offering turnkey petroleum solutions for professionals in major industries, serving trucking fleets, construction companies, industrial plants, and more. Whether a large corporation or owner-operator, Parman Energy has your diesel fuel, lubricant, DEF, and equipment needs. No matter how you're getting there, start with Parman. Visit ParmanEnergy.com for more info. Your Tennessee petroleum solution, providing totally outrageous customer service.
Attention veterans of Middle Tennessee. Little Guys Movers wants to put your hard-earned skills and leadership talent to work with your very own Little Guys Movers franchise. Be your own boss and build a team with standards as high as your own, and all while serving your community with the same hustle that you served your country. Use your existing 401k to invest in yourself. Financing options are available. Start a fulfilling, profitable new chapter of your life as a member of a team with 30-plus years of growth and good times at littleguysfranchise.com. That's littleguysfranchise.com.
Finding the right person for the job isn't easy. Just ask someone who hired a lounge singer to be their office receptionist.
Hello, this is Mickey Marquis, and you've reached the office of Doug & Associates. Thank you very much. Catch me Tuesday nights at the Hotel Johnson. Hello?
But if you've got an insurance question, you can always count on your local Geico agent. They can bundle your policies, which could save you hundreds.
Doug & Associates, this is Mickey Marquis. Hello?
For expert help with all your insurance needs, visit geico.com/local today.
And now it's Geico's Motorcycle Rules of the Road. Avoid biking in the rain and never touch another person's bike.
Hey guys, look at these bikes. So shiny. Whoops. I'm gonna leave a note. Oh gosh, there's more.
And the rule to saving on motorcycle insurance is, in 15 minutes, Geico could save you 15% or more.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne, broadcasting on Alexa.
I appreciate that.
And other smart speakers.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Live from the Game Nashville studios, it's Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. With Karen Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 102.5 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the law offices of Amanda Gentry, live from the Hillside Medical Game Studios. So we're getting to the point of draft season where now we're starting to hear what teams are thinking, but we don't really know, and everybody's so secretive. And so you're trying to piece the clues together. And the Titans, 2 weeks ago, set off alarm bells when Mike Vrabel attended Desmond Ritter's pro day. And we have talked about Desmond Ritter at length. It looks like he might be available with the 26th pick. It looks like Vrabel and Fickell have a great relationship and that Fickell has been selling Ritter to teams. And yesterday we played the clip where Desmond Ritter told us that he is modeling his game after Marcus Mariota, Ryan Tannehill, and Deshaun Watson.
Interesting.
But I have to ask this question. Who's making the decision? When you're talking about drafting a franchise quarterback, Jay Gruden, when he was the head coach of Washington, He used to criticize the owner after he got fired, Dan Snyder, because he would say that they'd spend all this time looking at tape and going to pro days and meeting with prospects and spending time at the combine, and then Dan Snyder would show up off the yacht and make the pick. And he hated that, and I understand why he did. Who's making the pick for the Titans? We know it's not Amy, and we know it's not Burke Nihill, the team president.
Correct.
It's one of two people that's making the pick, John Robinson and Mike Vrabel. And I ask you, who's making the pick?
John Robinson.
Ian, who's making the pick?
Robinson.
Do you guys know that?
No.
I assume the same thing, too. But I do think Vrabel's opinion matters.
Do you think it's kind of a tag team?
And so I go back to the combine when Vrabel talked about how important mobility was at quarterback. But where did Robinson learn his craft from?
New England.
Okay. So when you read the Seth Wickersham book that highlights Brady and Belichick and Robert Kraft, he writes this, quote, Belichick had once taken me through how he evaluated college quarterbacks. All of the tests were mostly mental, not physical. The coaches would inundate the prospect with football information from terminology to play design. An hour later, they would sit there and they would call the quarterback and quiz him on everything, testing his recall. The process sounded easy, but predicting quarterbacks how they would adjust coming out of college was still impossible. Belichick whittled it down to two factors, decision-making and accuracy. Those are the two things Bill Belichick cares about when it comes to quarterback, decision-making and accuracy. Todd McShay, who studies Desmond Ridder, says Desmond Ridder's a great product, but he's got two problems. Here's what Todd McShay had to say on Desmond Ridder.
The interesting part with him is he's pretty accurate when you watch all three levels throwing the football for most of the time. But then there are times where he just inexplicably, it's not necessarily his footwork, it's just he tends to miss here and there. And you wonder, like, why did he miss inside the strike zone on this throw? And then why did he completely miss a wide open target on another throw? So he's interesting, and to me, he's a difficult evaluation because you like 80% of his game, but there's some inconsistency with his decision-making and inconsistency with his ball placement at times that makes you wonder, after a 4-year starter, is he ever going to improve in that range? And if he does, he's got a chance to be a good starter at the next level.
Okay, so he's Vrabel's buddy's quarterback, and Vrabel's buddy thinks this guy can play in the NFL. But he struggles, as Todd McShay said, with two things, decision-making and accuracy. Robinson was raised by Belichick. Belichick cares about two things.
Decision-making
and accuracy. You know, there's a story that I was told, and I think I've relayed this. Floyd was in the ICU during the draft last year, and he told the nurse, who was a big football fan, that they could book it. The way I was told was there were, bags and IVs and everything all over the room, and he told the nurse, you can book it. The Patriots are going to draft Mac Jones. Why? Because Mac Jones makes good decisions, and he's accurate with the football. So those are the two things that are hindering Desmond Ridder. And then Trevor Maddich, again, who watches a lot more stuff than I do as far as the Cincinnati quarterback's concerned, said this yesterday on our show when it came to Desmond Ridder.
Ridder, I like him. I like his game. But there are a lot of questions in really key areas about quarterbacking. You know, to be a quarterback, the first thing you need to be is accurate. If you're not accurate, you don't have the price of admission. You just can't play. And he improved his accuracy last year over previous years. He went out and worked with a quarterback guru in the offseason heading into the 2021 season, improved his footwork, and you could tell that he got better. But there were games when he regressed, games against teams that were really poor defenses like Navy and East Carolina and others, where his accuracy was either in the high 50s or it was like 60%. I mean, he should have tore those teams up. And those were games that Cincinnati didn't pull away on the scoreboard until late. And it was largely because of the offense and largely because of the quarterback position just kind of disappeared. And that's against relatively poor college offenses. And so that's the big rap on him, is can he be as accurate as consistently as necessary?
Accurately? I went back and watched Desmond Ridder tape against Georgia in the Peach Bowl last year because it's an NFL defense. And I didn't want to use the Alabama one because he didn't play very well and his team was so overmatched. and I looked at the Georgia one. There was a touchdown throw he made where he scrambled around in the pocket, and he was running away from Georgia defenders. And we know all the Georgia defenders are going to end up in the NFL. And he's scrambling away, and he turns around, and he stops, and he throws a ball as the tight end comes open, kind of Patrick Mahomes-esque. And the tight end ends up diving back for the football, catching it, and it's a touchdown. But as I watched the ball, it was probably an 18-yard pass from Ritter. The ball died. So Ritter threw it. The ball died. The tight end had to jump back for the ball, and it looked like he was in the end zone when he caught it, but his momentum took him out of the end zone. If it's Patrick Mahomes, that's a strike. If it's Lamar Jackson, he might throw it in the 8th row, but he's not going to be short on an 18-yard pass even while he's running. And again, we're talking about the first round for Desmond Ritter. And so you heard what Todd McShay said. You heard what Trevor said. Bill Polian brought up concerns with Desmond Ritter about his elongated delivery. Now, he said Josh Allen had an elongated delivery, and he worked on it, and he fixed it. But Desmond Ritter is not the kind of prospect that Josh Allen was. So I ask this question, which is, if we know that the Belichick Bible for quarterbacks is decision-making and accuracy, which is why it made no sense whatsoever when Bill Belichick signed Cam Newton to be his quarterback. But if decision-making and accuracy are the hallmarks of what Bill Belichick wants in a quarterback, and Desmond Ritter is not those two things, don't you throw the scouting report out the window and say, all right, on to the next?
I would, but I look at a couple of things. One being the Patriots do not draft injured players.
That's not true. They drafted Rob Gronkowski.
But because of John Robinson and his push.
Right, but I mean, I
They didn't really want to, did they?
No, I mean, like they drafted him. I mean, I think it's kind of binary. Either you do or you don't. Floyd didn't draft injured players, but the Patriots draft injured players.
Well, then I guess I'll look at Ryan Tannehill then, coming in from Miami. Because can we just call that the only quarterback that John Robinson has brought in for the Titans?
I don't really count that as like a Robinson decision. I mean, he was a better backup than Blaine Gabbert. That's what he was. Now,
would you call Ryan
picking
Tannehill?
him over Brady? And at that point, think about this. Joe Montana was never Dan Marino in terms of throwing the ball down the field. Like, he had the West Coast offense, which was basically take what the defense gives you, dink it, dunk it, Jerry Rice it. Like, that's what Joe Montana did. What Dan Marino does is he just chucks the ball down the field because he's got the arm strength and the accuracy, and he can do those things, like Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert. Tannehill was efficient in the 2019 season like Joe Montana. As crazy as that is, he was literally efficient like Joe Montana, which again was decision-making and accuracy. And so he showed that when he picked Tannehill over Brady, Tannehill was exhibiting decision-making and accuracy. So that's what makes me think that John Robinson does value that. But then Vrabel talks about valuing mobility. Now, when Belichick started, working quarterbacks in 1990 when he took over the Browns, the mobile quarterback wasn't as big as it is now. But again, sometimes there's certain, isms that you just keep with you. And if John Robinson heard for 20 years in New England decision-making and accuracy, then that it leads me to believe that he's not going to take a quarterback whose biggest problems are accuracy and decision-making.
I do wonder, though, because I've looked at whatever the draft gurus have to say about these quarterbacks, and albeit that isn't the Bible, but I did notice that a majority of these quarterbacks, accuracy is an issue. Malik Willis, accuracy is an issue. Matt Corral, accuracy is an issue. Desmond Ritter, accuracy is an issue. But all three of those quarterbacks, what is the biggest positive in their positive and negative category is their mobility. This is just a class of incredibly mobile quarterbacks.
So I talked to a former quarterback, about this class this morning, and he's been around, as far as these players are concerned. And if I tell you, what he does, it'll give it away. But I was talking to him, and he was like, yeah, they stink. He was like, and I love Kenny Pickett, but he's not any good. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, they all stink.
And I do wonder how much of this class, the Kenny Pickett's and the Malik Willises that are being touted as the best quarterbacks in this class, how much of that is they're just the best quarterbacks in this class, or they're actually really good?
Well, I think Kenny Pickett's hands are a big issue. I think fans get, offended for some reason when you bring up hand size. Nobody brings up height as an issue and said, "Oh, how dare you bring up height?" or "How
Until
dare you?"
Kyler Murray comes around and everyone's worried about him being able to pass over defenders.
Yeah, Kyler Murray checked in at 5'10" at the combine and refused to be measured again at Pro Day. Like, that tells you Kyler got what he wanted, and that was it.
He's wearing platform shoes that day.
And I go back to the fact that, like, Russell Wilson's the exception. He's not the rule.
Mm-hmm.
So this idea, well, this one guy could do it. Again, Belichick wants decision-making and accuracy. That's what he wants. Robinson came from Belichick. Now, it should be noted that Jason Light and John Robinson drafted Jameis Winston. And decision-making off the field was a problem for Jameis. And I would argue that decision-making on the field was a problem for Jameis as well. And yet they took him. So I have soured on Desmond Ridder because of that. Also, everybody I have talked to has not said anything positive about Desmond Ridder. I mean, like, there's the, hey, he carried Cincinnati there, but, and just makes me think, I mean, we're talking 26th overall. So we'll get your thoughts on it. 615-737-1025. Again, I'm not telling you what I want to do. I'm telling you what I think the Titans are going to do. So can we go ahead and cross off Desmond Ridder's name as far as the Titans at 26 are concerned? 615-737-1025. And Bill Polian does share his thoughts on Desmond Ridder, and we'll get to that coming up next, and then we'll see what we think of it after that. 615-737-1025 here on the Stillman and Company program. Let me tell everybody out there that when the Preds have a weekday game this season, it's your chance to participate in Preds Pick to Click, brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka. If you guess a Preds player that scores a goal in the game that night, you win a pair of tickets to a future Preds home game, and your next chance to participate is tomorrow morning at 8:45 a.m.
Hey, this is Andrew Allegretta, voice of the Vandy Boys. Listen to the Commodore Hour every Monday at 6 p.m. during the baseball season. Kevin Ingram and I talk with Coach Corbin and special guests on ESPN 94.9 and streaming on the VU Commodores mobile app.
The 2022 Major League Soccer season is officially here, and the Nashville SC Stadium nearly complete. Don't miss Nashville SC's home opener May 1st. Grab a seat at nashvillesc.com/22ticks.
This segment of ESPN 1025 The Game is brought to you by Train Heating and Cooling Systems. Tested, retested, engineered, and re-engineered to keep up with you. We run together. Visit traininfo.com to find your local independent Train dealer. Traininfo.com. It's hard to stop a train.
Spring into savings at Electronic Express. Get up to 40% off the latest 4K TVs from Samsung, LG, Sony, Hisense, TCL, and more. That's not all. Get huge savings in every department, like computers and gaming, smart home, housewares, mattresses, and more. Plus, save up to 40% on all appliances with up to 36 months free financing. Shop in-store or online with free express delivery on most items. Shop locally owned and family operated at Electronic Express. We make it happen.
What if you could be debt-free in 3 weeks? Hey, Willie Donick here. My friends at Loan Pronto are helping people do it every day. It's Loan Pronto's debt consolidation home refi, wiping out tens of thousands in credit card debt. Listen, your home's value is way up. You can refinance now, take money out to pay off all your credit cards, eliminate PMI charges, pay off personal loans, or other high-interest debt. One local couple had over $50,000 in credit card debt. Loan Pronto did a debt consolidation refi. And even though their mortgage rate went up a tad, they cut their monthly payments by $900. Why pay 20% interest when you can consolidate it to one low payment with a mortgage APR in the threes? Homeowners who do it save an average of $800 a month. Do it now and even skip your next house payment altogether. That's what I call financial freedom. Call Loan Pronto now. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781. Subject to lender approval.
I tend to second-guess dinners with friends because they're often interrupted by diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or oily stools. It turns out I have EPI, or exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, which means I'm missing the enzymes needed to digest food. My doctor prescribed Creon, pancrelipase, an oral prescription medication that replaces pancreatic digestive enzymes. Creon treats EPI due to cystic fibrosis, chronic pancreatitis, pancreatectomy, or other conditions.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening
thickening of your bowel wall, if you're allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor and always with food. Do not chew capsules, as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon.
Creon is the #1 prescribed EPI treatment. Ask your doctor about Creon for EPI and visit Creon.com or call 800-633-9110 to learn more. That's CREON.com.
Interact with Stillman and Company. Call or text the show at 615-737-1025. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be selected in the first round. Like I said, I've done everything that I can do throughout, all these events, the Pro Day, Combine, Senior Bowl, and, I've put my best foot forward at every single one. And then, like we've talked about earlier, continuing to put my best foot forward through these meetings and letting everyone see who I am and have nothing to hide. And so, like I said, I feel like I'm the best quarterback in this class. And why wouldn't I go in the first round?
There you go. Desmond Ridder says, I think I'm a first-round pick. Jordan Schultz reported today that he's talked to 13 teams that say Desmond Ridder is a first-round pick. Now, I like Jordan Schultz. I don't know what he knows, though. So take that with a huge grain of salt.
Anything I hear around draft time, I take with a big grain of salt. Because it seems like things this time of year around the draft are so fickle. One day, Kenny Pickett is the greatest gift to the NFL draft world, and now it's Malik Willis is the hot thing to talk about. And then Matt Corral is the hot thing to talk about. Things are incredibly fickle and trendy around draft time.
So I think it's all reality. So I think it is like Pickett is a solid player, but he's got small hands, and he doesn't profile as a starting quarterback. Like, he doesn't profile as an ace. When you are picking in the top of the first round, you are picking the first quarterback off the board. You want an ace. You want Joe Burrow. You want what they thought Tua was going to be. Like, that's what you want. You don't want, the guys at the back end of the first round that maybe make it. Lamar's the exception. Jordan Love is the rule. And so I think that's kind of the holdup there with Pickett is solid quarterback, but he's not an ace. It's like Drew Bledsoe said when he met Tom Brady, that he got to know Brady that first year that Bledsoe was the starter and Brady was the third stringer, and he liked Brady. And he thought Brady was going to be around for a long time in the NFL as a backup. That was the way that Bledsoe said it. So Bill Polian gave his evaluation of Desmond Ridder, and I would say every evaluation we've heard about Ridder is yeah, but, and there hasn't been anybody that stood on the table for Ridder. And again, it doesn't matter if you pick him 26th or if you pick him 4th. If he's your quarterback, he's your quarterback, and
right.
You have to compete against the guys that were taken 4th. Here's what Bill Polian said about Desmond Ridder, his evaluation.
Desmond Ridder, ideal size, 6'4", 210, runs in the 4.6s. He can move around. He can do a lot of really good things. He, too, has the it factor. He took a program that should not have made the college football playoff and put them in there largely on the strength of the victory at South Bend over Notre Dame, a defense that was really good. He can make all the throws. His arm strength is fine. His accuracy is a little bit worrisome because he's got a kind of an elongated delivery. Now, you can work with that and develop that, as we've seen with Josh Allen. He's not as big and physical as Josh Allen and doesn't run as well as Josh Allen, but he's got many of the same competitive qualities. And the more you talk to people, as I did, who coached him and were around him, the more you feel that this guy is a really good prospect. Probably not ready right now, but has a chance, I think, to be pretty good.
So he says, he's got a chance. He's got to work on his delivery. He's got to work on his accuracy. And the Titans do have the option of him sitting behind Ryan Tannehill for a season. But again, the 26th pick, it didn't feel like Polian was standing on the table for Ridder there.
And at the end, he said, after if he sits a year and so he works on that accuracy, he has a chance to be pretty good. A chance to be pretty good is an incredible endorsement for Desmond Ridder.
Well, let's compare it with what he said about Matt Corral, Ian, if you could get that. Because, again, I think a lot of people see Pickett and Willis as the top two quarterbacks in the class. I don't even waste my time thinking about those guys because I don't think the Titans will have a chance at either of them. And so then that would take you to Corral and Ridder, and some people like Sam Howell. I don't. But this is what Polian said about Matt Corral, and compare this with maybe his excitement or candor towards Desmond Ridder.
Corral is 6'2", 205 pounds. That's a worry. He's a 4'7" guy, so he's quick enough, and he's got ability to move outside the pocket and make plays with his legs. He's got a good arm. He's accurate. He's got the it factor. He's led his teams to a lot of big victories and made them very competitive. Tough guy. Played hurt and finished and won the Tennessee game on essentially on one leg, and so he's got all the intangibles that you're looking for. Matt Corral has the it factor. He's got a long way to go because this is a typical spread RPO kind of system. So NFL route trees and reads will be new to him. And I worry about the injury factor with him because he's slight. And so if I were setting up the draft board and working with a scouting staff, the first question I would ask would be, are we taking into account this injury history and 205 pounds? Do we think that he can withstand the beating in the NFL? That's a question, and it probably would knock him down at least to the middle of the first round and maybe below, depending on where the other intangibles come in. But an interesting prospect nonetheless, and he does have the it factor.
Sounds like he likes Corral, but he doesn't trust whether or not Corral will stay healthy.
And the size, too.
The size is why he won't think that he's going to be healthy.
And he's coming into the draft hurt.
And I think that, so like, again, with Ridder, it's like, I mean, he could be good. With Corral, it's like he is good. He's got to be able to learn an NFL system, which I would agree with. But, you know, he's worried about the health and the way he's felt. You've heard Trevor for the last month. I feel like Trevor thinks if Matt Corral sits on the bench for a year, he could be a good player.
That's what's good for him, yeah.
I don't think Trevor has any interest in Desmond Ridder with the 26th pick of the draft.
It really doesn't sound like it. We've brought it up to Trevor a couple times, and every time he'll say he has his reservations about Desmond Ridder, about how he says, if I were the Titans, I wouldn't even look at Desmond Ridder in this year's draft and just move on to next season, to the 2023 NFL draft. So, I mean, I think with both Desmond Ridder and Matt Corral, you're going to have your obvious pros and your very obvious cons. But that also begs the question of, you know, either one, the lesser of two evils, or either two, scrap the idea of quarterback, move forward with Ryan Tannehill, and then 2023
worry about
it later, which I don't love. I'm not obsessed with that idea, and I don't love the fact that Logan Woodside is the only alternative to Ryan Tannehill if Ryan Tannehill does kind of fall back into his 2021 ways. But why waste a pick on a quarterback that you don't necessarily are obsessed with anyways?
I would agree. That's where the Vrabel thing comes in, right? Like if Fickle is banging the table and Vrabel's taking the cheese, and I don't know if he has, but if that's what's happening, then, you know, you put Robinson in a situation where, like, he doesn't love him. Like, the real question is not, do you like Ridder more than Corral? Though that is a question a lot of people are having. Mm-hmm. To me, just based off of this Mel Kiper Jr. mock draft, where he's got the Titans taking Jahan Dotson in the first round at 26, the wide receiver out of Penn State. It's, do you like Jahan Dotson, Matt Corral, Desmond Ridder, Kenyon Green, the guard from Texas A&M, Zion Johnson, the guard from Boston College, Tyler Linderbaum, the center from Iowa. Like, which one of those guys do you like more? Because all those guys are available, and all of those fit an issue that the Titans have right now. So it's more than just, you know, is Corral better than Ridder? Or, oh, you got to have a quarterback. Because you don't have to have a quarterback. You do have a starting quarterback. And like yesterday, Trevor, we talked about it with Trevor. He you know, Ridder compares himself to Mariota, Tannehill, and Watson. And I think everybody laughs because other than Watson, none of those guys are considered superstars. Trevor was like, no, he is not Mariota. He is not Tannehill. I think he said like that. I think he said, do we have the one, Ian, the Trevor talking about Tannehill? Yeah. I mean, listen to how Trevor starts. Like, can you compare Tannehill to Ridder?
But I don't think that you could call Ridder a version of Mariota, unless you say he's a very risky version and weaker version of Mariota right now. Again, I like him, but you're comparing him to these guys. Tannehill, I wouldn't even put him in the same planet. Tannehill is an AFC championship caliber quarterback. You can debate whether or not he's anything above that, but he is AFC championship game. Let's put it that way.
So let's stop right there.
Well, Trevor loves Tannehill.
I know, but, like, that's a pretty big statement.
That is.
That he's not even in the same planet. And here we are talking about, should they draft him to ultimately replace Tannehill? And Trevor, who watches infinitely more college football than any of us, who's played in the NFL, was drafted in the first round, is like, I don't think it's fair to compare him to Marcus. And it's ridiculous to compare him to Tannehill. Just some food for thought. 615-737-1025. We'll get to your phone, 615-737-1025. Plus, I've been snooping around what the Titans have been doing, trying to draw clues, and I wonder if it even matters. We'll get to that coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you want to get in, again, that number is 615-737-1025. Let me find what I'm supposed to tell all the people out there about. Stop by Social Furniture, 5412 Charlotte Avenue in Nashville now to enter for a chance to win a pair of tickets to the Predators take on the Chicago Blackhawks at Bridgestone Arena on Saturday, April 16th. Also, don't forget to check out their new sofas while you're there. It must be 18 to enter the contest. No purchase necessary.
Hey, this is Phil Forsberg, and this is Smashville.
Forsberg a shot, broken up in front, give it back to Forsberg, and here come the Habs.
You're listening to the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network, ESPN 1025 The Game.
Hey guys, it's the new year. Are you still struggling with erectile dysfunction? I've yet to meet anyone that enjoys timing those intimate moments around a pill. Well, now you don't have to. The advanced wave technology at Hillside Medical has been shown by Cambridge University and the Cleveland Clinic to restore and even regrow blood vessels. It can improve circulation and eliminate erectile dysfunction. No pills and no side effects. If you're ready to put a stop to your ED, call us in the next 2 minutes and you'll receive a consultation, assessment, and blood flow ultrasound free. Plus, a special gift that produces immediate results in the bedroom. You're going to love that. Trust me. This is a $600 value, free to callers now. 615-576-5000. That's 615-576-5000. Guys, get rid of your ED and get that spark back. Call Hillside Medical now to qualify. 615-576-5000.
As a mom, you have to plan for everything. But I never planned on my health plan at work costing so much to cover my family. Fortunately, with more than 70 years of experience helping Tennesseans, Farm Bureau health plans help me get family-friendly coverage for a lot less. So I can focus on raising my kids, not my premiums.
Ouch, Mom!
Find out more at fbhp.com. Farm Bureau Health Plans. Plan on us.
The NBA play-in tournament is here, and FanDuel Sportsbook is going to hook you up. Bet at least $20 in same-game parlays on FanDuel Sportsbook, and you'll get an instant bonus, win or lose. That's right. Not only do you get to enjoy the NBA's best duking it out for the right to advance to the playoffs, but FanDuel is giving all customers a bonus for getting in on the action. And the more you bet, the bigger your bonus. I think you have to like the Nets and Kevin Durant with Kyrie Irving together, and you can make same-game parlays based off of that. FanDuel is an official partner of the NBA. Their app is safe to use, and you'll get your winnings fast. New to FanDuel, sign up with the promo code JGM to make every moment more. So don't just watch the NBA play-in tournament. Be a part of it. Bet at least $20 in same-game parlays and get instant bonuses. That's right, win or lose. 21 and older in President Tennessee. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable free bets that expire in 7 days. Max bonus $100. Restrictions apply. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line 1-800-889-9789.
Smokeville Smoke Shop in Hendersonville wants to invite you, your friends, and family to their huge 420 blowout event. Live music, on-site food and dessert trucks, discounts store-wide, and a free dab bar. Smokeville Smoke Shop's 420 event will be held at their flagship store located at 699 West Main Street in Hendersonville on Wednesday, April 20th. Visit them on Instagram at Smokeville Smoke Shop for more event details and to take advantage of additional special offers. Smokeville Smoke Shop for all your smoking needs.
Play ball! Feliciano is in, and it's 4-3 Sounds.
The Nashville Sounds are on the road as they take on the Gwinnett Stripers.
Swing and miss, strike three, and the Sounds win.
Coverage begins at 5:50 on your home for the Sounds.
ESPN
94.9 and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, this is Phil Forsberg. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 1025 The Game.
All those teams that you mentioned, that means you probably won't go to any of them, because it's funny the way this draft works. There might be a team there that you talk to a little bit, not as much, and all of a sudden, you're sitting there and your phone rings and you look at your cell phone and you say, really? I mean, they're calling me, and you pick, and they say, "How would you like to be?" It's like draft day now with Kevin Costner calling and say, "How would you like to be a Cleveland Brown?" I mean, that's the way this thing works.
There you go, Charlie Weiss. That was an interview on SiriusXM where he was talking to Matt Corral, and Matt Corral was talking about the teams that he met with and the teams that he likes and the teams. And Charlie Weiss is like, "Yeah, the way this draft works, honestly, it might not be them. It may not any of the teams that you like." Mike Riley was the head coach at Oregon State. Then he went to the Chargers. Then he went back to Oregon State. I think he's retired now. And he was the offensive coordinator at USC in 1995. And there was a quarterback in California that he just freaking loved. Like, he loved him. But the head coach there at the end ended up pulling the scholarship because they got a commitment from another quarterback. The quarterback Mike Riley loved was who? Guess.
I don't know.
Ian, guess.
I'm sorry, what year?
1995. Mike Riley loved this quarterback. He's the offensive coordinator at USC. There was a quarterback in California that he loved.
Oh, Tom Brady.
Tom Brady.
Yeah.
So then he's now the head coach of the Chargers in 2000. Brady has gone to Michigan and is up for the draft. And Riley said, "I will not make the same mistake that I made at USC, that I let them make for me. I will not let that mistake happen again." They're picking in the draft, and Riley tells Bobby Beathard, who's the general manager at the time, and I believe lives here. And if you're listening, how you doing, Bobby?
Hey.
But Hall of Fame general manager Bobby Beathard said, "Who do you like?" Brady. That's who he wanted. He wanted Brady. And they ended up taking some guy who played 4 years in the NFL. And so that's kind of like, the story of you may like this team or you may think this team might be your team, and then all of a sudden it's not. Chris Sanders was on our show earlier today. Here's what Chris said.
I don't think you put much weight into it because the funny thing about my process is, when I got drafted by the Houston Oilers/Tennessee Titans, I never talked to Houston. I thought I was going to get drafted by the Washington Redskins, and the guy that was interviewing me a lot was Terry Rabisky. He talked to me about coverages and tell me about this and, tell me about the city and all those things. But then all of a sudden, the 67th pick of the third round, I got drafted by the Tennessee Titans, who I've never talked to. I don't even remember doing an interview with them. But at the end of the day, I guess they wasn't expecting I was going to be there, or they said I was the highest rated at that time. So every general manager is different. I think they're going to go with the guy that's available, that's best for their team.
So do you think we should care that John Robinson has been to the pro day of Jahan Dotson, the wide receiver at Penn State? He's been to the pro day of Green, the offensive lineman at Texas A&M. He's been to the pro day of Zion Johnson, the guard at Boston College. He's been. I kept looking around today to see if he was at the pro day of Tyler Lindenbaum, the center out of Iowa, because he didn't participate in Iowa's pro day, but yesterday they had a second pro day, and I was trying to, I was reading, the articles about this pro day to see, because, normally when an NFL general manager's there, they'll be like, there were 8 general managers, yeah. John Robinson of the Titans, Tom Telesco of the Chargers, Chris Greer of the Miami Dolphins, they'll put that stuff in there, and I couldn't see if Robinson was there. But Robinson didn't go to Ritter's pro day. He didn't go to Corral's pro day. He didn't go to any of the quarterbacks' pro days.
Well, Vrabel was at Ritter's pro day.
I know, but Vrabel's not Robinson.
But you also can't be at every single pro day.
No, but if you're going to pick a quarterback, don't you think you would be?
You would think that the general manager would be there.
Unless it's like Charlie Weiss says, that the team that is kind of sneaking from the bushes is doing their homework behind the scenes. And I'm just throwing it out there as a possibility. It's something that it's like, because everybody who tweets about the Titans or thinks they cover the Titans, any time that there's a top 30 visit, it's like, Jalen Johnson is visiting with the Titans today. And it's like, okay, should we
visit with most teams.
Should we get worked up about that? I think you only get 30.
That's a lot.
I know, but Jermaine Johnson's
30
a
of
pass rusher.
32?
No. The team gets 30.
The team gets 30, yeah.
And then the local guys can come in and they don't count. So a Vanderbilt guy can come in and they don't count.
Yeah.
But Jermaine Johnson is a pass rusher from Florida State. Now, we have not talked at all about pass rushers we have not talked at all about Jermaine Johnson for two reasons. One, the Titans don't need a pass rusher. And two, Jermaine Johnson, in all these mock drafts, looks like he's going to go way before the 26th pick.
Mm-hmm.
So then do we equate that to, like, they're just doing their due diligence? Who knows? I don't know. I do wonder how much of all this is all fake and all smokescreen and all whatever.
The difficult thing is you can't put too much real estate into, let's say, John Robinson going to these pro days, because albeit that means that he does have some sort of interest in those players that he's meeting with or going to their pro days. That doesn't mean they're going to pick them.
No, and he could be looking at like a 6th-round linebacker or a kicker. I mean, God forbid, they've lost to the two best kickers in the NFL in the playoffs in back-to-back years. God forbid John Robinson's watching a kicker kick at one of these pro days.
I mean, Mike Vrabel was at Cincinnati's pro day. Everyone assumed Desmond Ridder, but Sauce Gardner is expected to be the first cornerback off the board.
They have no shot.
They have no shot at Sauce Gardner. But I'm saying, like, it's not like Desmond Ridder is the only guy who's playing football at the University of Cincinnati. So it's tough because it's like, yes, that does show that John Robinson has interest, and yes, that could put them as a candidate for being the Titans, first-round pick, but it doesn't mean anything. They have one first-round pick, and they're meeting with 30 guys and going to several different pro days. So it's almost like a catch-22.
But do you think that John Robinson, let's say John Robinson drafts a quarterback and it doesn't work out. Everybody loves John Robinson right now.
Yeah.
You draft Matt Corral in the first round and he blows up. Mm-hmm. Unless they hit another miracle like they did with Tannehill, they're not, they're in trouble. Then they got to go get the quarterback, and if they don't get quarterback right, they're screwed.
Right.
And I look at that and I think to myself, like, would you really, if you were the general manager of the Titans, would you really risk trying to fool somebody by not going to their pro day when you want as much information as possible on these guys? And that's just a question.
But how much
But then do you want somebody behind you to know that you're interested in that guy? Because then if they know you're interested, they'll try to jump you and get that guy.
But how much stake can we put, like, a physical presence at a pro day?
So Floyd told me one time that this was the 2019 draft, and Jacksonville, all the mock drafts had said that they were going to draft T.J. Hawkinson, who ended up going to Detroit.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of talk about how everyone had thought Josh Allen, the pass rusher, was going to go way before he got to Jacksonville with the 6th or 7th pick.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Floyd looking at me being like, Jacksonville loves the tight end. And he said it on air. And I was like, how do you know that? He looked at me like dead eyes and was like, Jacksonville loves the tight end. Like, he knew,
He knew.
And those teams, because a lot of these guys, man, loose lips, like a lot of these guys can't keep a secret. Hell, I can't freaking keep a secret.
That is true.
So, how can I blame these other teams? So, I don't know. I will say this. I don't think, just from what I know, I don't think Robinson and Vrabel are going to keep it secrets.
Why?
Just some situations.
I have seen no peek behind the curtain from Robinson and Vrabel, at least in press conference standpoints.
No, that ain't what I'm talking about with loose lips. I've just heard some things that when you really think about it, aren't all that surprising, but, they would be surprising to everybody right now if I told them. But
Well, maybe don't.
Things.
But, I've been to one pro day. Covered one pro day when I was covering LSU. And there was one coach/general manager that was represented at that pro day, and it was Mike Tomlin, and there were 0 LSU Tigers that year taken by the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I went to one pro day. I went to Teddy Bridgewater's pro day in 2014. Yeah, I went up there and I talked for 4 hours, and everybody was like, man.
That was your 40.
He's very talented. So it's a true story. This was 2014, and I was still doing radio in Louisville. Mm-hmm. And Rustin Webster was there, the general manager of the Titans, and I'm a big Titans fan. And I went up to Rustin Webster, and I said, hey, I just want to introduce myself. I do talk radio here in Louisville. I'm a big Titans fan, and, hopefully you guys will get it turned around. I'm really excited, whatever. And Rustin, who's one of the nicest guys in the world.
Yeah.
Everybody was in agreement that it was time for Rustin to go when Rustin went. But I think everybody liked Rustin.
T's and P's.
They didn't like Wisenhunt. But Rustin, at the time, who didn't even hire Wisenhunt, Rustin was like, hey, have you met our coach? I was like, no. And so Rustin introduced me to Ken Wisenhunt, and I told Ken Wisenhunt I was really excited about him, being the new coach of the Titans, and I believed they were going to get it turned around and everything else like that. And 18 months later, I'm screaming on the radio, fire Ken Wisenhunt.
Life comes at you fast.
Fast. To your phones on the draft next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025 here on the program. let me tell all the fine folks out there, show us your bad Easter photos, Nashville. From pastel overload to horrible bunny costumes, we want to see it all. You can win a family 4-pack of tickets to a Nashville Sounds home game and the grand prize of a 2-night stay at the Gaylord Opryland Hotel with access to their fabulous Soundwaves water park. Submit photos now at thegamenashville.com/enter to win. 1025/Easter to enter. 1025 The Game presents Bad Easter photos. Get more info and submit a Bad Easter picture now at thegamenashville.com/Easter.
From Fox 17 News, this is a Code Red weather alert.
Strong to severe storms will be possible this afternoon, evening, and moving through the mid-state as we head overnight, so make sure you stay weather aware. I'm Fox 17 News Code Red meteorologist Jan Guthrie.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Tired of mosquitoes ruining your summer? Stop the bite. Go to tiredofmosquitoes.com and check out your special offer. Take back your summer. Go to tiredofmosquitoes.com.
Genesis Diamond's Spectacular Spring Extravaganza is coming April 22nd through 24th. 3 incredible days of store-wide savings. Up to 35% off engagement rings, earrings, bracelets, wedding bands, plus special financing. Even Genesis GIA certified diamonds are marked down. Plus, top jewelry designers are flying in with all new amazing designs. If you're popping the question soon or just looking for some new sparkle, you can't miss this annual event. Save up to $10,000 on some items. It's April 22nd through 24th and only at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs. See store for details.
Floyd Mayweather launched Mayweather Boxing and Fitness when he officially retired as a 50-0 champion. Previously keeping all his training methods secret from the world, Floyd now shares his unique workout philosophies and training programs for the first time. Introducing the first Mayweather Boxing and Fitness location in Nashville. Perfect for all fitness levels. Join a community that will help every person unleash their inner champ. Become a founding member today. Stop by the studio and join the family exclusive. Pre-opening rates now available. Mayweather Boxing and Fitness, the gold standard in boxing fitness.
When it's more than just your lawn, it deserves the Kubota Z400. Get a head-turning offer on class-leading speed, agility, simple deck height adjustments, and a quality cut. When you need comfort and performance, then you need the professional-grade Kubota Z400. Right now, get the Kubota Z400 mower for 0 down, 0% APR for 36 months. Now through June 30th. See us or go to KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer.
2 locations to serve you, Columbia Kubota or Franklin Kubota. Visit us online at ColumbiaKubota.com or FranklinKubota.com.
Hey, it's Chase McCabe of Darren, Donick, and Chase. I started my radio career as an intern right here at ESPN 102.5 The Game. Now we're looking for our next great batch of interns. You think that's you? Send your resume to together@cromwellmedia.com to apply today.
What's for dinner? Burgers?
After last week, no thanks.
Avoiding foods due to fear of diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools? It may not be just stomach issues. It could be EPI, or exocrine pancreatic insufficiency. EPI can cause uncomfortable symptoms because it's a condition where the pancreas doesn't release enough digestive enzymes to break down food. But EPI can be managed. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor about your symptoms. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Sometimes their glass is half full.
That was unbelievable. It was the best NFL draft they've ever had.
Sometimes glass half empty.
What are we getting ourselves into here? Tough game.
And sometimes it's all about the numbers.
1 win, and they've gone on this streak, and now they're at 500.
Hang out with Darren, Donick, and Chase from 10 to 2 during your workday. Presented by Curacion CBD on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Watch live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube.
Stillman and Company is on. Delivered by TriStar Moving.
I think that the upside of Matt Corral is really intriguing, and I think it should be enough for teams to be willing to take him in the late first or somewhere in the second round. Because the upside is when he did let that ball go, it was with a quick release. He has tremendous deep accuracy. Sure, there were easy reads, but now the ball's got to get there. And that was a beautiful ball that he would throw. And so Corral is another quarterback in this draft that's typical of all the quarterbacks in this draft that, has potential upside, intriguing skills, but also weaknesses, or at least perceived weaknesses, that will really make you pause before you actually, send in his name to Roger Goodell to be drafted. So I like him. But, he's got to be there, and you've got to be convinced that he can learn NFL schemes.
That was Trevor Maddox yesterday on our show. You know what's funny? I get the same vibe from Trevor that I did from Bill Polian when it compares to Ritter and Corral. Corral, it's like, I like him, but, we got to pause. Ritter, it's like, I don't know if I like him, but there are some issues there that have to be addressed.
And I feel like some of the Corral things, albeit like you can't just change the fact that you're 5'10" or however tall Matt Corral is. But I mean, you can put on some weight, and your injury will heal, and you can start to learn NFL defenses, and you can start to kind of shed the Lane Kiffin offensive-minded, mind that he has. And
what do you think about Corral? You've probably watched more Ole Miss football than I have.
Yeah, I think my thing with Matt Corral is, I don't know if this was the way that the offense was schemed up or if this is just his tendency, but it seems like whenever Matt Corral didn't have the perfect look, he ran. He was off. And if you look at Ole Miss's stats, I mean, it's like first down, it's an incomplete pass, second down, Matt Corral for a gain of 6 yards on the ground.
Sure.
Matt
And
Corral
he ain't
for
Lamar
a gain.
Jackson.
No, he is not. I mean, he doesn't have the size of Lamar Jackson. He does not have the speed of Lamar Jackson. I'd say he has a pretty strong arm, and I would say that he has an I don't give an F mentality, that has a lot of toughness in the pocket, but I do think that tendency to run is a little bit nerve-wracking, especially seeing how a lot of mobile quarterbacks just don't necessarily translate to the league. Lamar Jackson is the exception. He is not the rule.
Let's go to your phones. Rick is up next on Tyler Lindenbaum. Thank you for calling. Go ahead, Rick.
Hey, as far as you mentioned, you brought up the name Linderbaum. That's who the Titans need to take at the 26th pick if he's available. He's a great center. He could actually start at guard for the Titans this year. God, a first-round pick that could start? And the talk out there by analysts, this kid could be another Jeff Saturday. That's all
I did see that.
Here.
Rick, I appreciate your call. Here's the one thing that Jeff Saturday, I think, did for a lot of the time that you have to do if you're going to take a guard in the first round. You got to make the Pro Bowl like every year.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm drafting a guard in the first round, you can get guards anywhere.
Yeah.
Nate Davis was in the third round, and, Benji Olsen, I think, was in the fourth or fifth round. And, Floyd used to take guys out of nowhere, like Eugene Amano, I think was a seventh-round pick. Jacob Bell was a day 3 pick. Guard is, you need to be able to find that. And so if they're taking a guard in the first round, now, if it's in the top 10, you better, you need to make the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're taking Chance Warmack in the top 10, you're going to need to make the Hall of Fame. Like, Quentin Nelson is going to make the Hall of Fame.
Whoa, bold.
You think that's bold?
He's only been in the league for, 2-3 years?
Yeah, he's been in the league for, 4 or 5 years now. I think he's been, a 4-time All-Pro.
Has he been in the league for 5 years?
He's been in the league. This, I think, is his 5th year. Yeah, he's Baker's draft class. I think he's a 4-time All-Pro.
I'm not saying he's not good. I didn't think he was in the league for that long. He's been in the league for that long.
He was the best interior offensive lineman the day he walked into the NFL.
Crazy.
And so if you're taking somebody top 6 like him, you got to go to the Hall of Fame. You're taking somebody in the top 10, you need to make my team's Ring of Honor or go to the Hall of Fame. If I'm taking a guard in the first round, now here's the thing: Linderbaum, I think, would be the long-term solution to replace Ben Jones at center, and we know center is more important today than it ever has been. Look at the money that Corey Linsley got from the Chargers to leave the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to make the Pro Bowl every year. Like this, the bar for Titans drafted offensive linemen right now is so low that I feel like, just him starting, to call it, oh, wow, imagine if he could start, the bar is so low. But I do truly feel like at this level, there is something there.
There is a certain expectation.
What do we have in the text line?
One texter texts in and says the Titans definitely should take a wide receiver and not a quarterback in the first round. AJ is hurt and out a lot with his coming off of an ACL. That leaves NWI as a potential number 1 option at that point, and we need more wide receiver depth and talent.
So I don't disagree with that sentiment that they need more wide receivers, but I don't feel like that's how the draft works. I think some teams draft like that, and I think when John Robinson drafts like that, it bites him in the buttocks. But I mean, I just don't believe in drafting for need. Jeffrey Simmons wasn't a need pick. Derrick Henry wasn't a need pick. A.J. Brown wasn't a need pick. I just don't believe in that. Corey Davis was a need pick. And look at who else was in that draft. So I get, we need receivers, Jared. They don't have a starting left guard. They don't have a starting right tackle. As much as Joe is hoping and praying that Dylan Radins is going to be the right tackle for the Titans next year, I struggle with that a little bit.
I never like to put all of my eggs in an unexpected basket. Like saying maybe Dylan Radins could. I'm not out on the fact that Dylan Radins could produce for the Titans at some point. I'm not out on that at all.
What's Corey Curtis say? Hope is not a strategy.
Exactly. But I'm not going to put all my eggs in Dylan Radins' basket just hoping that he can emerge as, an NFL caliber tackle.
But that's Joe's hope.
Well, that's not enough for me.
What else we got? I hope I get to talk to Joe today.
One texter texts in and says, with the Titans already having somewhat of a veteran roster, what does something like waiting into next year and picking up a fifth-year senior and very physical pro-style quarterback like Will Levis from Kentucky? He reminds me of a younger Tannehill. So you would have to be able to, have scouted next year's class? Yeah, I haven't done that.
I have no idea about next year's class.
I mean, I know it's Spencer Rattler. Bryce,
he sucks.
Bryce Young.
He's good.
He's good. I guess Will Levis. But
C.J. Stroud.
C.J. Stroud. Calling someone a younger Tannehill, I don't necessarily think that gets me going.
That's what Ritter wants you to think.
Well, I don't think that's what Ritter actually is. I think that's just Ritter sending out hey, Mike Vrabel.
Ritter wants you to think that he's a younger Tannehill.
Ritter wants a few people to think that he's a younger Tannehill.
What's wrong with him being a younger Tannehill?
Do you want another Tannehill?
I mean, I want a Tannehill who's the thing that I want, when they compare him to Mariota, and I don't know if it's a fair comparison or not a fair comparison. Honestly, it's probably not a fair comparison to Marcus.
Uh-huh.
But when they compare him to Mariota, the thing that I struggle with is I look at this and I think, okay, was Marcus good enough when he was the Titans quarterback? And I don't mean, did Marcus get the results that would have equaled success? Because the answer to that is no. But was the talent that Mariota had good enough for the Titans? And I think that would be a very debatable discussion. I thought Marcus played well when he was brought along accordingly, and then they kept screwing around with him. And I wonder how much of Marcus's struggles were about his confidence, and how much the Titans had their hand in screwing that up. So if Ritter is a confident Marcus, is a confident Marcus good enough to win with? I don't know.
You'd think so.
But I don't know.
You don't know.
That's the tough part. Floyd compared as a prospect Josh Allen to Ryan Leaf. Now, that is aside from the off-the-field stuff, which we know Ryan Leaf, didn't have his head in the game, and it looks like Josh Allen does. But the Bills legitimately had a program for Josh Allen that was this is how we're going to bring you along. Allen stunk those first 2 years. He was terrible. But they played him, and they supported him, and they built him up, and now they have maybe the best quarterback in the NFL. And so, there is an element of getting better. I used to joke, when college basketball's over and the NBA, starts to matter. In Louisville, people would watch the NBA. And I used to kind of joke about this because people in Louisville only remember what these players were when they were in college.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Devin Booker right now is not the same player that Devin Booker was when he was a freshman at Kentucky.
No.
But nobody knows that because they don't watch. So then it's oh, yeah, he can't shoot. And then he hits 8 jumpers. How did that happen? Because he got his butt in the gym and he shot.
I mean, it's the nature versus nurture conversation.
And I think it's
both
equally
are very important.
Yeah.
And especially at the quarterback position. Because we look at Marcus, for example, or we talk about Trevor Lawrence all the time. We really hope that the Jacksonville Jaguars don't ruin him. Because although he is naturally gifted.
We hope they don't ruin him.
I mean, I think that Titans fans hope.
I hope that they ruin him.
They ruin him.
That's why I love the signing of Urban Meyer to be the coach.
It would be good for the Titans if he did get ruined, but I would hate to see a talented quarterback like that get ruined by just a crap organization.
See, that's where the quarterback's got to stand up and be Eli Manning. That's where you got to say, not me. And Trevor,
I don't know if everyone has the same pull as Eli Manning and his dad do.
If Trevor Lawrence said, I'm not going to play for the Jaguars,
I guess they wouldn't draft
him.
Then
they would have had to trade him to the Jets, and they would have had to take Zach Wilson.
Probably so. But the Jets are also a crap organization that I would not want to play for.
Okay, so he doesn't want to play for them either.
Just move down the line.
I mean, that's Eli didn't want to. Eli wanted to go with Ernie Accorsi, and he wanted to go to the Giants, and it worked out. 615-737-1025. Mel Kiper Jr.'s latest mock draft is out. And I've got some thoughts on Mel's pick for the Titans including one very respected Hall of Famer, and how they feel about it as well. FanDuel Sportsbook is my official sportsbook app. The NBA play-in tournament, there are no sure things except this one. Bet at least $20 in a same-game parlay on FanDuel, and you'll get an instant bonus, win or lose. That's right. Not only do you get to enjoy the NBA's best duking it out for the right to advance in the playoffs, but FanDuel is giving customers a bonus for getting in on the action. Oh, and the more you bet, the bigger your bonus. So tonight, the Spurs. Give me the Spurs tonight. For some reason, I can't get out of my head that I think Popovich is a good coach, even though he hasn't won anything since Duncan's retired. Give me the Spurs. FanDuel is an official partner of the NBA. Their app is safe, easy to use, and you'll get your winnings fast. If you're new to FanDuel Sportsbook, sign up today with the promo code JGM to make every moment more. So don't just watch the NBA play-in tournament. Be a part of the play-in tournament. Bet at least $20 in same-game parlays and get an instant bonus, win or lose. 21 and older and present in Tennessee. Bonus issues, non-withdrawable free bets that expire in 7 days. Max bonus $100. Restrictions apply. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line 1-800-889-9789.
The voice of reason.
Now, you may say, well, a quarterback is more important than a running back. That's fine. You can say whatever you want.
The voice of the fan.
Even if we have to develop him while he's playing, I just want a boring first-round pick.
The voice of Nashville sports is your home of Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Spring has sprung, which means it's time to renew your home with Social Furniture. It's their Spring Fling sale, where all furniture is up to 50% off. That's right, up to 50% off on top name brands such as Serta, Sealy, Simmons, Caracol, Bernhardt, and Woodhouse. At Social Furniture, you'll find new bedroom furniture, mattresses, and sofas, all up to 50% off. Spring into Social Furniture today on Charlotte Avenue in West Nashville. Shop local, shop social. Social Furniture is a proud supporter of your Nashville Predators.
Realizing Geico has over 85 years of experience saving folks money and providing great customer service is like realizing there's a crumb tray on the bottom of your toaster, and you don't have to keep turning the toaster upside down to clean it.
How long has that been there? Hey, who needs some croutons?
It's something that's been right there in front of you all along, like the dedicated Geico claims team available to you in the event of an accident to get you back on the road quickly, or realizing that baby carrots are just regular carrots that have been shaved down.
I don't care. They're still cute.
It's something you can't believe you never realized before. Like how Geico's 97% customer satisfaction rating means Geico is committed to providing the best service for their customers. Or how you can peel the top layer of tape off a lint roller and there's a fresh layer underneath.
Marcy, wait till you hear about the lint roller.
You mean how the handle is reusable?
Wait, what?
Trust. It's just one of the many reasons to switch to Geico. They're all right there in front of you.
ESPN 102.5 The Game and Smokeville Smoke Shop want to send you to an upcoming Nashville Predators home game. All you have to do is come into Smokeville Smoke Shop at 699 West Main Street in Hendersonville Wednesday, April 20th for their 420 blowout event and visit the game table to enter. While you're at it, be sure to stick around and take advantage of Smokeville Smoke Shop's store-wide discounts, free dab bar, as well as on-site food and dessert trucks and live music. Visit Smokeville Smoke Shop on Instagram for more.
Spring into savings at Electronic Express. Get up to 40% off the latest 4K TVs from Samsung, LG, Sony, Hisense, TCL, and more. That's not all. Get huge savings in every department like computers and gaming, smart home, housewares, mattresses, and more. Plus, save up to 40% on all appliances with up to 36 months free financing. Shop in-store or online with free express delivery on most items. Shop locally owned and family operated at Electronic Express. We make it happen.
You know it's going to happen, and when your car needs service or repair, remember Mitchell's Mr. Transmission on Gallatin Road, just north of Briley Parkway. Now here's Jim Mitchell.
Our fleet vehicle program is a great benefit to all the fleet companies in Nashville. We are able to get their vehicle back on the road a lot quicker than the downtime of most dealers and most general repair shops, simply because we have the transmissions available. We're able to put priority on their vehicles to get them back on the road quickly.
You know it's going to happen, and when your car needs service or repair, remember Mitchell's Mr. Transmission on Gallatin Road, just north of Briley Parkway.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUZ HD2 Laverne, broadcasting 97.5 Murfreesboro, 106.3 Williamson County,
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Live Live from the Game Nashville studios, it's Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. With Karen Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 1025. The Game streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the offices of Amanda Gentry, live from the Hillside Medical Game Studios. Mel Kiper Jr.'s newest mock draft is out. I believe this is Mel's final mock until the day of the draft. So, I think everybody's got a mock draft now. I saw the Midday Show, and I'm not knocking the Midday Show is what I'm about to say here, but I saw the Midday Show had a guy from CBS Sports on yesterday who just did his mock draft, and I had never heard of the guy before. And I was like, Pro Football Focus has their mock drafts. The Draft Network has their mock drafts. The Athletic has their mock drafts. ESPN has their mock draft. Like, so just oversaturated. But Mel is Mel. And Mel has the Titans taking Jahan Dotson, the wide receiver out of Penn State, with the 26th pick. Now, he has all the wide receivers that are just going in a row right here. Treylon Burks from Arkansas goes at 23 to Arizona. Christian Watson from North Dakota State at 22 to the Packers. He's got Jamison Williams at 19 to the Saints. He's got Chris Olave at 15 to the Eagles. So, and you get the message. Drake London at 10 and Garrett Wilson at 8. So he's got all the receivers going. Mel writes the following, quote, when it comes to Jahan Dotson, the Titans need to get faster at receiver next to A.J. Brown. That's not Robert Woods' game. Dotson, who ran a 4.43 at the 40 combine, caught 91 passes last season, 33 coming from the slot. He would give Ryan Tannehill more easy throws because he can scoot after the catch. Tennessee could also target the best offensive lineman with this pick off my board, which would be center Tyler Lindenbaum, and he could move and play some guard. So Mel says Jahan Dotson, he's mocked Jahan Dotson before to the Titans, and I thought Jahan Dotson for the receivers had a very disappointing combine. But I guess maybe it was turned around a little bit better. So Bill Polian on SiriusXM NFL Radio was breaking down the wide receivers in this class, and these are Polian's notes. And he said that, 40% of the information that we need, nobody has because it's all the mental evaluation of the players. But here's what he said about his evaluation of Jahan Dotson, and listen to whom he compares Jahan Dotson to.
Jahan Dotson from Penn State, he might go in the first round because he can really run. He's a legitimate 4.4 guy, but he's 5'11", 184. So he's been really productive at Penn State, very quick, great separator, great run after catch. He's got 6 touchdowns of plus 60 yards. So he can go down the field and he can run after the catch. There may be people who would go up in the bottom of the first to get him, although the size is that's Marvin Harrison's size, when Marvin Harrison was the 17th pick in the draft.
And Bill Polian had Marvin Harrison on his teams with the Colts, and I take that as a very big compliment because Marvin Harrison, like Bill Polian, is in the Hall of Fame. So what do we make of this? Because the one thing that I'll say about Jahan Dotson is forget about the 40 time, and we know he can run. Forget about the combine stuff or whatever, and we don't know the interviews. The kid produced. And if you produce, like I look back to it, Deebo Samuel was the second-round pick, right?
Yes.
Deebo produced at South Carolina. AJ and DK produced at Ole Miss. Remember the cone drill DK Metcalf? Oh, my God. What are they going to do there? They produced on the football field. As I read the Brady Belichick book, when you go back to Brady's tenure at Michigan, there was a lot of people that were like, well, he just didn't play a lot. And what's that say that Lloyd Carr wouldn't put him in there? And Brady was team captain of a team that went to the Orange Bowl, and he was the MVP of the game that beat Alabama. Like, Brady was good. I hope people understand that, in college, yes, Brady didn't play as much as a good college quarterback normally does because Drew Henson was hailed as but that's why Brady didn't play. And again, Dick Rabine, who was the Patriots quarterback coach for Brady's rookie year and then passed away, he was the one that told Belichick, you got to draft this guy. I mean, I love everything about him. But Brady produced on the field. And so I think, to me, it's a big deal that Dotson produced on the field. I didn't think Lamar Jackson's game would work in the NFL. But what's the one thing you absolutely positively cannot take away from Lamar Jackson? What he did on the field in college.
Yeah.
I mean he was unstoppable.
The Heisman Trophy winner for a reason.
I remember Deshaun Watson when he was playing in the championship game against Alabama. And the next day, Mel Kiper Jr. was on SportsCenter, and they were like, Mel, what do you think of Deshaun Watson with his draft stock after beating Alabama? And Watson, I'm not going to say he single-handedly beat Alabama, but Watson absolutely was the star of that game. And Mel was like, I think there's some concerns there about the accuracy, about the arm, about where he may go. I have him as a second or third round pick. And I'm like, wait a minute. I just watched Deshaun Watson torch Alabama in the national championship game. Doesn't that have to mean something?
Well, then how much, in that same breath, how much can we really take away from the draft gurus calling Desmond Ridder inaccurate?
Well, the problem with Desmond Ridder is when Desmond Ridder got in those games against Georgia and Alabama, he wasn't throwing for 345 yards.
Well, he also didn't have the same teams that Clemson team had.
No, but, I mean.
Same talent around him.
Look at Clemson without the star quarterback.
Not so great.
I mean, so.
Not so great.
I would argue, I'm like, it wasn't even a game against Alabama. And I'm not really holding that against Ridder because, for instance, Patrick Mahomes got skunked by Iowa State, his senior year or junior year, whatever his last year, and we know what Mahomes has become. But as far as a receiver is concerned, like, give me the guys who produce. Derrick Henry, there was a big concern about him. Too big, straight line runner. It wasn't like the running back was so devalued that if teams thought Derrick Henry, who had won the Heisman Trophy and rushed for over 2,000 yards at Alabama, if teams had believed that about Derrick Henry, that he could play, then he would have gone. It wasn't like the running back was so devalued that no one was taking a first-round running back. Zeke Elliott went in the top 5. Mm-hmm. But they just didn't think Derrick Henry could play at the NFL level. Well, joke's on them. And Derrick Henry produced at an astronomical rate at college. Derrick Henry was the best running back in the history of high school football. He has the record for most yards ever. He went to Alabama. He rushed for 2,000 yards and won the Heisman Trophy. And he's come into the NFL, and he's been the best running back probably since he's been drafted. Dude produces. Lamar Jackson produces. These guys, and I get it. There's some guys that, didn't play much in college that teams think they can mold into a great player, and sometimes they do. But if I'm looking at, at receiver, if I'm looking at a couple of guys, if I'm looking at Treylon Burks, and I know he ran a 4.55 out of Arkansas, but he can play. He was a threat in every SEC game. Every SEC team had to be worried about him. Treylon Burks can play.
I do wonder why the D-Mace is not high on Treylon Burks.
No, I appreciate D-Mace's opinion. I do, but Treylon Burks produced in college.
He did.
Which is where I would disagree. I mean, at some point, you got to put the stats
But the
up.
supporting cast around him, though, wasn't necessarily national championship caliber.
No, I mean, they were really like gum and paper clipped together.
Yes.
Arkansas. And they were a respectable program.
For sure.
But they were not, high-end, next level, whatever. So when it comes to Jahan Dotson, and let me be the first to say that, I don't watch the film. I'm not breaking it down. I'm not saying this. Christian Watkins, who Mel's got going ahead of Dotson and Burks because he ran so fast at the 40 from Northern Iowa, I don't know how much he produced in college. Now, TD said that he was watching the film on Trevor Penning, the tackle, and that Watson really, came off the page to him, which maybe means he's a great player. But I look at guys that are productive, and I'm like, okay, if you can mentally and emotionally handle the NFL, and I don't know Dotson, but if you can mentally and emotionally handle the NFL, then you're probably going to produce at least a little bit. Tim Tebow produced a little bit in the NFL, and he couldn't even throw. I mean, so I guess it's my long-winded way of saying I don't have a problem with Mel's pick there with the 26th pick and with Jahan Dotson because the guy can run, and he was productive in college, and he wasn't playing bad teams, and Bill Polian compares him to Marvin Harrison, and Marvin Harrison's in the Hall of Fame.
And I think the interesting thing here is, in every mock draft that I've seen, it seems like on almost every single one that they have the Titans taking someone different, whether that be a Desmond Ridder or Jahan Dotson or an offensive lineman or whoever it is. I remember last year going into the draft, we had a list of absolute no-nos. We do not want the Titans to touch.
We did not want Caleb Farley.
Caleb Farley being one of them. But I think through all of our draft talk and all of our, at least my draft research, there hasn't been anyone that has emerged as a big no-no for me. That guys that are slated to be first-round talent. Even Jamison Williams, who is coming into the league with an injury, he's not a no-no for me.
No, he's not a no-no because he might be the best receiver in the draft.
Well, they said that about Caleb Farley being the best corner in the draft.
Yeah, but a torn ACL and a back are not the same thing.
Yes.
Which was my biggest, bone of contention when it came to the Farley pick was everyone, it worked with Simmons. Simmons was an ACL. Those things are not the same.
Yeah, this guy's got a robo-spine.
I just want everybody to know that those things are absolutely not the same. 615-737-1025. We'll get to your drafts and your text, 615-737-1025. Your thoughts on the draft. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Hiller is giving away free vacations for you and your family this month. I love Hiller. They've been taking great care of my home for years and years, and they'll do a great job for you. With every purchase of a new whole home generator or select new HVAC systems, Hiller is giving you a free week-long vacation. With every purchase of a new tankless water heater, Hiller is giving you a free weekend vacation, and they're giving you a Visa Rewards card to help pay for your gas to get you there. Choose from over 400 Marriott, Wyndham, Hilton, or Hyatt hotel properties and enjoy your vacation. Take advantage of this unbelievable deal while you can, because these deals are only available for a limited time, so make sure you schedule today. Visit happyhiller.com for all the details. As always, happy you'll be, or the service is free. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Here they come, turn 4.
Hey, it's Chase McCabe. Join me for Chasing Checkers every Sunday morning at 8 as we talk all the big stories in NASCAR, IndyCar, and the motor racing world. We'll also talk to some of the big names in the sport. It's Chasing Checkers, presented by Apple Collision Centers, Bristol Motor Speedway, and the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway on ESPN 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
When you need to hire, you need Indeed. Their powerful hiring platform helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates all in one place. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Parman Tractor and Equipment is your one-stop tractor and equipment solution, and Middle Tennessee's Link Belt and Takeuchi dealer. Rent or purchase a track loader, mini excavator, large excavators for your job site, or something in between. Parman is now hiring and seeking qualified candidates for construction equipment truck drivers, service technicians, and more. Apply at parmantractor.com or call 615-865-7800. Come be an employee owner with the Parman team, your Middle Tennessee Link Belt and Takeuchi dealer.
At the law office of Amanda J. Gentry, we are committed to defending your rights. We have a team committed to helping you navigate the court system, whether you've been accused of a crime or you're going through a messy divorce and custody. Call our team to help you navigate this system. We are here to protect your rights, to demand your rights, to enforce your rights. 615-604-6263. 615-604-6263. AmandaJGentry.com.
Golfers, swing into Edwin Watts Golf Shops for the hottest new arrivals from Titleist, featuring the new Titleist Vokey SM9 wedges, the most superior handcrafted wedge design ever. The new SM9 grooves are cut to maximize the interaction of ball and face for lower flight and higher spin. Get precise distance and trajectory control like a pro with the SM9s. Swing by Edwin Watts Golf Shops and get custom fit today. Edwin Watts Golf Shops, home with a 90-day satisfaction guarantee, and shop us online at worldwidegolfshops.com.
Introducing the first Nashville location of Mayweather Boxing and Fitness. Floyd Mayweather shares his unique workout philosophies and training programs for the first time. Perfect for all fitness levels. Join a community that will help every person unleash their inner champ with fun, effective, and empowering group boxing circuit workouts. Become a founding member today. Stop by the brand new studio in Midtown and join the family exclusive. Pre-opening rates now available. Mayweather Boxing and Fitness, the gold standard in boxing fitness.
Thinking about making a change? You've put in the years and had success, but ready for something more? Well, good news. Little Guys Movers is looking for folks just like you to own and operate their very own Little Guys Movers franchise. From Broadway to Brentwood to Mount Juliet, if you can hear my voice, there's an affordable, profitable Little Guys franchise opportunity nearby. Use your existing 401k to invest in yourself. Financing options are available. Join a team with 30-plus years of growth and good times. Learn more at littleguysfranchise.com and then make that call.
Hey, it's Elijah Campbell from Darren, Donick, and Chase, and I got my radio start right here as an intern at ESPN 102.5 The Game. It was an excellent experience, and we're now looking for new interns. If you think that's you, go ahead and send your resume over to together@cromwellmedia.com to apply.
If you've missed any of today's show, just search Stillman and Company on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform.
Ritter, I like him. I like his game. But there are a lot of questions in really key areas about quarterbacking. You know, to be a quarterback, the first thing you need to be is accurate. If you're not accurate, you don't have the price of admission. You just can't play. And he improved his accuracy last year over previous years. He went out and worked with a quarterback guru in the offseason heading into the 2021 season, improved his footwork, and you could tell that he got better. But there were games when he regressed, games against teams that were really poor defenses like Navy and East Carolina and others, where his accuracy was either in the high 50s or it was like 60%. I mean, he should have tore those teams up. And those were games that Cincinnati didn't pull away on the scoreboard until late. And it was largely because of the offense and largely because of the quarterback position just kind of disappeared. And that's against relatively poor college offenses. And so that's the big rap on him, is can he be as accurate as consistently as necessary?
That was ESPN college football analyst Trevor Maddich on our show yesterday, and the discussion surrounding the Titans draft and their pick at 26. I mean, there's wide receiver on the table, there's offensive line on the table, but there's also quarterback on the table. And Desmond Ridder has his name's kind of been married to the Titans throughout all of this draft discussion because of the obvious connection there between Mike Vrabel and Desmond Ridder's college coach, Luke Fickell. Mike Vrabel was at Desmond Ridder's pro day, but also because it just kind of seems like the logical place where Desmond Ridder could potentially be with the 26th pick. Caroline Fenton, Elijah Campbell joining us in studio here on the program. But my thing here is, just because Desmond Ridder has been the name that has emerged most with the Titans in association with a quarterback pick at 26 doesn't mean that he is the only name that could be associated with quarterback at 26. And who even knows if it's going to be quarterback at 26. But Elijah, one name that I've also seen kind of emerge and really whose draft stock that I've seen rise a lot over the past couple of weeks is Matt Corral. Now, there have been plenty of issues and concerns about both Desmond Ridder and Matt Corral, but in my opinion, it seems like Matt Corral's issues or, his cons on the pros and cons list seem a little bit more concrete than maybe Desmond Ridder. Desmond Ridder, we've heard his issues are accuracy and decision-making. You could argue that those are two of the most important qualities in an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, if I'm a quarterback in the draft and I have two knocks on me, I'd rather it be that I'm 3 or 4 inches smaller than your average NFL quarterback, or I have tiny hands. I feel like those are some things I'd rather be accused of being, other than not being able to read.
Tiny hands is a legitimate argument.
I mean, I'd rather be, I'd just rather be accused of not being able to carry all my groceries in one trip than I would be not being either to able read a defense or have accuracy issues. And it's not like it's like the do-all, end-all thing, right? Like accuracy, can improve because Josh Allen was crazy inaccurate coming out of Wyoming. He didn't play against SEC defenses or anything like that, and he struggled to be accurate at that level of the game, and that was a fair knock on him. His first year in the NFL, he wasn't very good because he wasn't very accurate. But then you were able to see how his natural playmaking ability helped open up things a lot more. And then once he tweaked a few things in mechanics by having a really good quarterbacks coach, I mean, he worked out with Jordan Palmer in one offseason, and he went from below average quarterback to one of the best in the league, seemingly from a 1 to 2 year jump, which is insane to me. So it's like those things are coachable. They can be fixed with a mechanics tweak here and there. But man, Caroline, I think that's one of the one things I don't want to be accused of is just not being able to be an accurate passer.
And, of course, you're looking at both of these quarterbacks, and I think some of the biggest knocks on Matt Corral are both size, his ability to stay healthy, both because he's entering this draft coming off of an injury in the Sugar Bowl, and also because he is more of a slight stature, so his ability to stay healthy. I don't know if he's the kind of quarterback, very Joe Burrow-esque, to be able to get sacked 8 times in a playoff game and be able to just, pop right back up and be able to lead his team to a Super Bowl. But I also look at Desmond Ridder and that his biggest knocks are accuracy and decision-making. If the Titans do decide to go quarterback in the first round, the Titans are in a really opportune place because they don't need a quarterback right now. There are several teams coming into this year's draft. You look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, perhaps, maybe the Atlanta Falcons. They're looking for their quarterback of the future. They're looking to draft a start right now kind of guy, or bring him in as a backup to be able to come in and take over that starting quarterback role, at least at some point in the season. The Titans aren't at that point yet. if they do need to take a quarterback, let's say a Matt Corral or a Desmond Ridder, two guys that would really benefit from sitting on the bench and learning, the Titans are in a place to do that. But I also think, too, if you're going into this draft knowing that, hey, this is going to be a guy that might need a little bit of development, a year or so to be able to learn and grow and to learn that offense, but do you eventually see him as the type of guy to be able to take over that starting role? Because a lot of what I have heard about Desmond Ridder is that he's not ready yet, but when will he be?
Yeah, and that's the tough thing too, is like you're in such a window right now where you only need depth at a few positions to really go from 12-5 to maybe 13-4, maybe being able to go far in the AFC playoffs. I mean, you have a team that can get to the Super Bowl, and yeah, while quarterback is, I guess, the biggest question mark, and you want to address that eventually, because I don't think Ryan Tannehill is going to be the quarterback for the Tennessee Titans in 3 years. However, it's one of those things now, like when you're kind of in this window, there are other years where maybe you can address this. It's just, you don't want to be able to make that mistake where if there is a receiver that could boost your offense immediately, you look back on it and be like, oh, we could have taken someone like Jahan Dotson at 26 or a Sky Moore at 26 or someone that could have made our offense better around Tannehill than taking a quarterback who you get nothing from in year one. Or worst case scenario, maybe Tannehill goes down, or maybe he has a really bad first 5-6 weeks, and then you throw him in the Wolves there in week 7 through week 18. They're bad, and then you wreck them automatically. I mean, a bad rookie season has wrecked a lot of quarterbacks when they're in really bad positions or they're in too much pressure to win at that given moment because the team that they're on. Like that's my biggest thing too, is my whole reserve of taking a quarterback in the first round at all is passing up on the opportunity that you have in a first round that is going to be loaded with position talent, like at receiver or offensive lineman or getting a tackle, something that's going to help you immediately and playing for the future, even though you could still make that play for the future, and it's not even close to a given. Because if Ridder or Corral or whoever you take at 26 needs time, and they have a bad start, now you got two quarterbacks in the franchise that the fan base has already turned on, and it could be a lot uglier of an offseason if you end up going like 8-9, 9-8, shoot even 10-7, and either missing the playoffs or going one and done in the playoffs again as a wild card team, with the quarterback situation of it being more of a question mark with two different dudes instead of one dude. So that could be the biggest caveat for me to making me not want to take a quarterback in that position. And that's not nothing against Ridder or Corral. It's just, to me, almost an unnecessary gamble, if you will.
I subscribe to two completely different schools of thought here. One being, the Titans don't necessarily need to take a quarterback right now. Although I don't necessarily feel incredibly confident about running it back with Ryan Tannehill and Logan Woodside, and knowing that Logan Woodside is your only saving grace if Ryan Tannehill does subscribe back to, the multiple interception games, the questionable decision making, when Logan Woodside is your only option, especially when, the most important parts of your offenses are declining. It's a reality. But I also subscribe to the school of thought of, if you love a quarterback in this draft, let's say it's Desmond Ridder or not, and you don't take him, what's the plan at quarterback in the future?
Yeah, they'll have to address it eventually, whether it be this offseason or they have to do it in the next offseason, because of just the way Ryan Tannehill's cap hit is going to happen this year. I mean, they have the most expensive quarterback room in the NFL, and it's not because Logan Woodside has a massive cap hit. Like, it is all Ryan Tannehill taking that salary cap hit, and eventually, like, you're going to have to make that change. It would have been really hard this year, but I guess that's one thing you have to look years in the future too, looking at next year's draft class, which is supposed to be a little deeper at quarterback. Now, we say that now. This could be obviously much different at this time next year. This time last year, it was looking like Spencer Rattler and Sam Howell would have been the two number one guys taken in the draft this season, and that didn't work out for either of them. Sam Howell's going to get drafted like, 4th, 5th round maybe, and Spencer Rattler had to transfer to South Carolina because he couldn't keep the starting job at Oklahoma for an entire season. So a lot can change. C.J. Stroud might not end up being anywhere near as good as we thought he was, or maybe Bryce Young somehow becomes pedestrian if he doesn't have Jamison Williams at receiver. Whatever could happen. I don't think those will happen, but you never know. And there's different ways to be able to get quarterbacks in the next cycle of guys. It's just, if you're going to take one this year, You have to love him. And that's my thing, is if you just absolutely look at Desmond Ridder and you say, this is a guy we know can come in if Tannehill's not performing and right the ship in the direction it needs to go, then it would be very hard to turn that down. Or you look at Matt Corral and you're like, we honestly believe this guy has the traits to be an NFL starting caliber quarterback, or not just that, be a top 10 quarterback one day, 2 or 3 years down the line. Like, you would hate to see someone like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good example, like a team ahead of like the Steelers taking one of them, and then they end up leading them to
a team that has been very vocal about the fact that they would like to take a quarterback.
Exactly. You don't want to see those guys take your guy that you kind of had that feeling with, and then they end up becoming successful for the next 5 or 6 years and not having to answer the same quarterback questions that you've been answering ever since the Bengals game ended. So like that is kind of like the two sides of this coin. I think you just kind of have to weigh out the risk, like what's more likely, I guess, to happen. And to me, it's like, I think you could still be good with Ryan Tannehill going into this year, but definitely start preparing after that, just because that number and that salary cap isn't getting any lower.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. ESPN's Jason Fitz joins us coming up next. Hey, he's been talking to the draft gurus. What are they saying? What are his thoughts on what the Titans should do? What the teams above the Titans are thinking, who may or may not be available to the Titans at 26. We'll talk to Jason Fitz about that coming up next. But before we do that, I'll tell you that tickets for the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix on August 5th through the 7th are on sale now. 125 The Game has your chance to win 3-day passes to the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix now. Just text the word RACE, R-A-C-E, to the game text line at 615-737-1025 to get qualified to win. More details on the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix can be found at musiccitygp.com.
This is Tanner Janot, and this is Smashville.
And now down the right wing side, Tanner Janot. His shot, he scored! Tanner Janot with the shot!
This is the flagship of the Nashville Predators Radio Network. ESPN 1025, The Game.
Winning this award is truly like winning the Super Bowl of car dealer awards for Mercedes-Benz.
Edwin Vickery, General Manager of Mercedes-Benz of Music City.
Culture, eat strategy for lunch. You have to hit on all cylinders to win this award. You can strategize all you want. You got to still have the right tools, and our tools are our people.
Live the dream with 3-time Mercedes-Benz Best of the Best award winner, Mercedes-Benz of Music City. Go to mbofmc.com.
Winter's a bad time for your furnace to go out, but it's never a bad time to call Lee Company. Our heating and air conditioning pros are available 24/7. No heat? Don't wait. Call Lee Company now at 615-567-1000. Our expert technicians will diagnose the issue and fix it right the first time. When you're cold, you need someone you can count on to bring the heat. Call Lee Company now at 615-567-1000 or visit leecompany.com.
Genesis Diamond's most anticipated event of the year is coming next weekend, April 22nd through 24th. Huge store-wide savings, plus thousands of new, unique designs from the biggest names in jewelry. All new collections, 2 years in the making, from names like Tacori, Verragio, and more. Rings, earrings, pendants, bands, many never seen before, and all specially priced for this 3-day event. Save up to 35%, 0 interest financing. Bring your old jewelry and trade up. April 22nd through 24th, only at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills, and Cool Springs.
Hey, what's going on? Chase McCabe here to tell you about Dr. Kelly Rice Family Cosmetic and Dental Sleep Medicine. Dr. Rice, is it true that according to the American Dental Association, roughly 80% of people in the U.S. have some form of gum disease?
That's right, but our non-surgical periodontal therapy is painless and effective in keeping your mouth healthy. And the mouth is the window to the health of the rest of the body.
I know you have some different things that you offer. What else can you tell us?
Well, first, who doesn't want whiter teeth? Our new Zoom LED whitening system is less sensitive, and you get more than 5 shades of whitening. And we just upgraded both our lasers to kill bacteria during your cleaning.
What about taking care of cold sores some people may have, which can become painful? Can lasers help with that too?
Yes, the gentle laser setting will kill the virus in your cold sores all naturally while reducing the healing time by half. And our special soft tissue wand uses warm, light laser therapy to give instant relief to severe TMJ pain. Our approach to holistic dentistry is unique.
Give Dr. Kelly Rice Family Cosmetic and Dental Sleep Medicine a call today at 615-373-4488 or visit kellyerice.com. You'll certainly be glad you did.
O'Reilly.
Need new wiper blades? Not sure which ones to buy? The professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts can help. We'll show you options for your specific car and even install them for free. Right now, save $10 per pair on Bosch Focus wiper blades, plus earn double O-Rewards points. There's no better time to replace your wiper blades. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
ESPN's Turon Davenport breaks down the Titans like no other.
On the field chemistry, I don't think it's going to be a problem. It's just going to be a process.
Catch TD Mondays at 11, Thursdays at 3, and Fridays at 8. Plus, the Talking with TD podcast drops every Wednesday.
When you draft players, it's not just for one season, it's for a career.
Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, Nashville, this is Laura Rutledge from the SEC Network, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 1025 The Game.
Stillman and company, Caroline Fenton, Elijah Campbell joining you today. So, Elijah, we were breaking down some thoughts on the NFL draft, and albeit I mentioned this to Jared earlier, that I felt like in last year's draft, there were so many, I guess, position groups that weren't even in consideration for the Titans. There were a couple players, for example, that I was like, they are on my no-no list. Caleb Farley, coincidentally, being one of them. Quarterback wasn't even a thought in my mind. But it feels like going into this year's draft, it seems like everything is on the table. I at least haven't found any player that, at least in the Titans' range, that's ranked as a first-round caliber talent that is on my no-no list. I don't think there's really any position group that's off the table for the Titans this year.
Yeah, I mean, you can go many different ways with it too. And my favorite part about the Titans situation isn't just that there's different ways you can go with it, is you're adding depth to a lot of things too. I love the idea of adding a wide receiver because it adds extra depth. You don't need a number 2 wide receiver, but if you can get a guy like Jahan Dotson to be your number 3 to boost that offense and be great around Ryan Tannehill, putting that in air quotes because that was what the Titans have said they needed to do this offseason, then you're in a spot where you can do that. You don't have to rely on them to be your best player on offense or to be that good right away like you would if you're someone like, I don't know, Jacksonville or Houston or Detroit.
Jason Fitz joins us now. Fitzy, we're talking about wide receiver, offensive lineman, but quarterback is the most exciting position to talk about. And 2 players that we think could be in the Titans' range at 26 are both Matt Corral and Desmond Ridder. Desmond Ridder being the obvious choice here and the connection with Luke Fickell and Mike Vrabel. But it kind of seems that the draft gurus are really liking Matt Corral and are kind of lowering their thoughts on Desmond Ridder. Between those 2 quarterbacks, Fitzy, who do you think would be a good fit here in Nashville?
Yeah, I think Desmond Ridder's a better fit. And part of the reason, nothing against Matt Corral, I mean, obviously, shorter quarterbacks, and I say that, no, shorter quarterbacks have managed to make a difference in it. With Matt Corral, obviously, he's shown a lot of mobility. Matt Corral had a lot of years in one system, so he really got the chance to figure a lot of things out. People like Matt Corral because, frankly, he played against the SEC competition. I feel like Ridder, this is Cincinnati, the thing they've been screaming about at Cincinnati for a long time. Like, this is a little bit of that anti-Cincinnati bias coming through. All that Desmond Ridder ever did was get better. Every time he touched the ball, he got better. Every year, he got better. You look at his completion percentage, went down a little bit in his senior year, but considering the weapons he was working with, I don't fault that at all. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He's capable of accomplishing a lot. Desmond Ridder's a very good quarterback. The only thing I would say to Titans fans, and I mean this genuinely, like I asked Mel and Todd, because I'm lucky enough to get to do a lot of the work on our Titans podcast. I asked Mel and Todd, this year's top-rated quarterback, where would they have been rated last year compared to everybody that came out last year? And the answer I got, consensus from everybody I've asked that question to, is somewhere around 5th or 6th best in last year's quarterback. So now we're talking about Desmond Ridder, who by most people's estimation right now is the 3rd best quarterback in this year, which means, again, stacking all this together, at best, 8th or 9th compared to last year's class. Like, is that the guy you want to build your entire future around? I know everybody is frustrated with Ryan Tannehill. Next year's quarterback class is much better. If I ran the Titans, I'd run it back with Tannehill, and if we don't have what we need there, next year is much easier to get a quarterback. So that's my 2 cents on it. I understand. I think Desmond Ridder has the chance to be a good quarterback, but I think we're also kidding ourselves if anybody thinks that Desmond Ridder at the end of the first round has the chance to be Lamar Jackson, right? Like, I know that we see quarterbacks at the end of the first round have success. I think Ritter has the chance to be good, not great. And if you're looking for great, I think you wait till next year's draft.
Jason Fitz is with us. Jason Fitz is brought to you by Blood Assurance. Give blood, give local, save lives. Fitz, you mentioned, the fact that Desmond Ritter hasn't seen the same caliber of defenses as Matt Corral has, say, in the SEC. But, I look at Desmond Ritter, who played Georgia and Alabama, who had two of the best defenses in college football this past year. Do you think that NFL general managers and coaches look at that as, well, that's just an opportunity for him to refine his ability to read defenses? Or is that a legitimate argument to not draft a certain quarterback is the caliber of opponents that he faced in college?
I think caliber is always going to be a conversation, but we also can't talk out of both sides of our mouth because one of our draft experts said the other day to me about Malik Willis that I, at 5'9.5", might be taller than any of the wide receivers Malik was thrown to at Liberty, right? So at some point it's a combination of who did you play and what does your skill set look like. So for me, I think, if you're looking at Desmond Ritter and the games he played throughout the course of his career, the one knock on Ritter is that he stares down targets when he's passing, but I think, frankly, that's overblown. A lot of young quarterbacks do that. So, I feel like Ritter and the competition is part of it, but at the same time, we're massively in love with, and not we, but many people are massively in love with Malik Willis. This is just one of those years, and to be fair, I'm squarely on the record on this. I hope I'm wrong because I root for success for every quarterback. But, man, I feel like this is one of those years we're going to be looking back in a few years like the Blake Bortles draft where it was like they took Blake Bortles in the first round. Yeah, there weren't a lot of options. That like Malik Willis is as boom or bust as you could possibly ask for. And I put Ritter sort of in that same category. And frankly, how many people are really doing cartwheels for Kenny Pickett? Like, it feels like this year's quarterback class is a little lost.
Yeah, I agree completely. You're talking with Jason Fitz from ESPN. And Jason, we'd be remiss if we didn't ask you about the big Raiders news. You're a big Raiders guy. The Raiders extended Derek Carr a contract extension, 3-year extension worth $121.5 million. When you first heard that news, as a Raiders fan, what were your first thoughts on giving Derek Carr that kind of extension?
I think it's great. It's a great deal. It's a sweet spot. It's a good deal for both sides because it's on top of the existing year that he has left on his contract. So it factors out to about $35 million a year, makes him about the fifth highest paid today in the NFL. And we all know that that's going to go, we still have Lamar Jackson's deal to be done. Herbert's going to get done. Burrow's going to get done in the next few years. So, we're going to see that number by the end of it be around middle of the pack, right? 35 is about middle of the pack. But this is one thing I think a lot of fans don't realize. And I blame my coworkers at some level at ESPN. Everybody says you can't win once you've paid your quarterback. And I want everybody to realize that narrative is factually inaccurate. It's not even like this isn't even an opinion. Like I had the stats and info people at ESPN deep dive for me. And if you look at the last 10 Super Bowls, that would be 20 different or 20 starting quarterbacks, sometimes the same. But if you look at those, the last 10 Super Bowls, of those 10 Super Bowls, 10 of those quarterbacks accounted for more than 10% of their cap, 10 accounted for less. So there's no evidence there. And if you go all the way back to 2011 to now, since 2011 to today, there have been 9 quarterbacks in the Super Bowl that were not on their rookie deal and only 6 that have been on their rookie deal. So the narrative that you can't pay your quarterback and win, and this applies to Tannehill and the Titans too, is factually inaccurate. And I don't know why every year it turns into a big debate when a player gets paid because there is no truth and no basis to the concept that you have to be on your rookie deal.
Yeah, that's a good point, too. And I was thinking some of the names that you were reeling off, right, that still have to, get signed to bigger deals like Herbert, Burrow, Jackson. Like, all those dudes are in the AFC. And the AFC this offseason has had, like, a Cold War era-esque arms race where the Raiders pick up Devontae Adams. The Dolphins were able to acquire Tyreek Hill. A lot of these teams around their quarterbacks, whether they be top of the line, like, Justin Herbert or someone like Tua, are acquiring, arms and weapons. And the Titans were able to pick up Robert Woods to be able to add a little bit of depth to the wide receiver position, get him a number 2 wide receiver. But with all these shifts going on with these AFC offenses, where do you see the Titans ranking among all of those, considering all the movement we've just seen?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And by the way, I really like the Robert Woods signing. We talked to Robert Woods a couple of times on Spain and Fitz last season, and there's something I know injury is obviously always part of the equation. But for Robert Woods, it's not just who he is on the field, it's who he is in the locker room. I can't say enough things about that signing. I think it's a really positive signing for the Titans. The Titans are still going to be able to, depending on their offensive line, going to be able to run the ball too. As long as you have Derrick Henry, you have a shot. So, I would expect, as much as to your point, I would expect the Titans to be looking for who's the most explosive player available to us when we draft, because that's what everybody's trying to do right now. It feels like everybody's trying to score everybody else. And what's wild about that is if you start looking across the board, even if we think the Bills are going to be, win their division, early prediction, like let's say the Bills win their division, the Chargers win their division, the Titans win their division, like you're going to start looking across the board and you're going to isn't a playoff caliber quarterback next year, even if the Ravens are good, because there's so much competition to just try and get in there. Like, I don't think it's a given Russell Wilson's going to the playoffs with the Broncos. So, like, you start looking up and down the board, there are going to be excellent teams that did not make the playoffs next year in the AFC. And the wild part about that is those franchises are then going to look at making massive changes, hiring coaches, getting rid of everybody when it's like, man, maybe this was just one of those really weird years where the 10 best teams in the NFL are all in the AFC, because I don't think that's a stretch. I don't think it's a stretch at all to say that the top 8 to 10 teams in the league could all be in the AFC.
ESPN's Jason Fitz is with us. Jason Fitz is brought to you by Blood Assurance. Give blood, save lives. Fitzy, it seems like death taxes and the Washington Commanders doing something stupid. And the most recent story out being that Dan Snyder and the Washington Commanders were withholding money from the rest of the league, millions of dollars in ticket revenue that was withheld from the Washington Commanders' financial reportings. Could we see Dan Snyder get kicked out of the league sooner rather than later?
Yeah, I think that's the only inevitability. What's crazy about this to me is that if every other time that there's been wild controversy with an owner, that owner eventually is either forced to sell or just sells, and it makes everything go away. The difference here is this is a congressional subcommittee that's looking into fraud by the Washington Commanders, which means, as a result, even if the NFL wants to seal everything up at this point and make everything clean, they can't, because this is already in front of Congress, and this is far bigger than anything that the league's going to do. So I think what's crazy about it is today, even if Dan Snyder came in today and said, you know what, I'm selling the team, it's best that I not be a distraction, and I sell the team for billions of dollars in profit, which I always laugh at being a punishment for somebody. But either way, if he's forced to sell the team, that's not going to stop this information from coming out. And this could be absolutely a nightmare scenario for the NFL, because we're going to be talking about opening the books. And once we open the books for the Commanders, are we opening the books for everybody? Is the NFL really prepared for that? And then also the human element, like, I'm sorry, but if it takes fraud against your fellow owners to finally get you removed after the way that you have treated people in that building for so many generations, like, it is embarrassing to think that some of the things that have been revealed in these congressional talks about forcing, for example, the female employees within the organization to walk on a clear-coded staircase so that all the men can look up their dresses. That doesn't get you kicked out of the good old boys club. But the minute you start taking money from somebody, it does. Like, it is wild what the NFL has let Dan Snyder get away with. And if it's money that ultimately makes him sell the team, that's kind of disgusting too. And I think it's fair to hold the NFL to a really, what the heck were you thinking conversation through the entirety of it.
Yeah, albeit unfortunate, I kind of feel like that's the reality. You know, the culture of sexual harassment and racism with the Washington Commanders was a slap on the wrist. But once you take someone's money, once you mess with someone's money, that's the last straw. Jason Fitz, we appreciate you. Give my best to my people in the digital department up there in Bristol.
You know I will. Thank you so much. Y'all have a great week.
Appreciate you, Fitzy. Jason Fitz with us, ESPN digital host. But coming up next, Fitz makes a fair point about some of these quarterbacks in this year's draft. It's what we've heard so many times, time and time again, that this is not a good quarterback class. How much do we buy that? And if the Titans don't go quarterback, what would be an attractive position? We'll get into that coming up next. Stillman and Company, Caroline Fenton, Elijah Campbell. We are live on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
From Fox 17 News, this is a Code Red weather alert.
Strong to severe thunderstorms will roll through Middle Tennessee throughout the evening with an ETA in Nashville around 9 p.m. All modes of severe weather possible, clearing overnight. For Fox 17, I'm Chief Meteorologist Katie Morgan.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
When you need to hire, you need Indeed. Their powerful hiring platform helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates all in one place. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
The 2022 Major League Soccer season is officially here, and Nashville SC's new home, Geodis Park, is nearly complete. Don't miss Nashville SC's home opener May 1st. Secure your season tickets now. Come on and grab a seat at NashvilleSC.com/22ticks.
Nothing makes one feel better than the ability to give to someone in need. You have the power to give the most important gift of all, the gift of life, with a donation of your blood. Supplies are desperately low in our area, and your help is needed. Blood Assurance is a nonprofit community blood center that supplies our Middle Tennessee area hospitals. Please find it in your heart to donate. Be someone's hero today. Go to bloodassurance.org to find a location or blood drive near you. That's bloodassurance.org. Give blood, give local, save lives with Blood Assurance.
What if you could be debt-free in 3 weeks? Hey, Willie Donick here. My friends at Loan Pronto are helping people do it every day. It's Loan Pronto's Debt Consolidation Home Refi, wiping out tens of thousands in credit card debt. Listen, your home's value is way up. You can refinance now, take money out to pay off all your credit cards, eliminate PMI charges, pay off personal loans, or other high-interest debt. One local couple had over $50,000 in credit card debt. Loan Pronto did a debt consolidation refi, and even though their mortgage rate went up a tad, they cut their monthly payments by $900. Why pay 20% interest when you can consolidate it to one low payment with a mortgage APR in the threes? Homeowners who do it save an average of $800 a month. Do it now and even skip your next house payment altogether. That's what I call financial freedom. Call Loan Pronto now, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Hey, Darren McFarland here, and I'm excited to tell you about my friends at Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Spring is here. If your AC or heating unit is old and inefficient, then you need to take advantage of the Spring Hill Spring Special for a limited time only. Save up to $1,000 with Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Get a York unit that lasts with a 10-year parts and labor warranty with up to 60 months no-interest financing on all York units. Restrictions do apply. Schedule now at springhillac.com. Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, a York certified comfort expert company.
Inside knowledge on the Titans.
Todd Downey's got his notepad out right now, just writing things down.
Inside knowledge on the Predators.
They can go right into the forecheck, and boom, you get a beautiful goal from Colton Sissons.
And then there's a team in Knoxville.
How excited should Tennessee fans be by what they've seen from Josh Heupel in year one?
Wake up and hang out with Robby and Rexrode. Weekday mornings from 6 to 10. Brought to you by Little Guys Movers on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and The Game Nashville app. Watch live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube.
This is Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving.
What are the strengths of the 2022 NFL draft class?
I think there's a lot of good players. You know, we saw a lot down in Mobile. We saw some out at the East-West Shrine game. And you got the underclassmen added to the combine. There's a lot of different players at position groups. You know, I think that the receiver group, there's some players. I think the tight end group, there's some players. I think the O-line group, there's some players. You know, it looks like the linebacker group, specifically the edge position, there's a lot of players that can play on the end of the line of scrimmage. So, you know, we'll continue to mine through and dig and try to find players that can help our football team, you know, in all rounds of the draft and even the post-draft process.
Titans general manager John Robinson talking about the strength of this year's draft. And while I do think it's interesting that he just so happened to list several of the Titans' positional group needs, being wide receiver, tight end, offensive line. He mentions edge rusher, albeit I don't think that's necessarily a need for the Titans this year, seeing that defensive line this past year was pretty damn good. This is a very strong edge rusher group this year, but I did find it very interesting that in John Robinson's response there, he did not mention quarterback. Now, what have we heard so much from the draft gurus, from the NFL analysts, from the college football analysts, that this is a weak quarterback draft? It's what we've heard all the time, and I think that's what deters a lot of Titans fans from, you know, feeling very confident about taking a quarterback in this year's draft. We had Jason Fitz join us in the last hour, ESPN, and he said the exact same thing. This is not a strong quarterback class. He said if there was the best quarterback in this year's draft would probably be what did he say, the 5th or 6th best quarterback in this past year's draft?
7th maybe. It
7th
was up there.
Even. Yeah, I mean, you know, the very best quarterback in this class wouldn't even crack, the top 5 in this past year's draft. But I look in that and I think you only need one. It doesn't need to be a strong class necessarily, as long as you find your guy that you think fits your program. I go back to the 2017 draft, for example. Everyone thought Mitch Trubisky was going to be the only quarterback out of that draft that would come out being anything decent. And Deshaun Watson came out of that draft, and Patrick Mahomes came out of that draft. So it's really tough to listen to exactly what the draft gurus do have to say. But I do think that it is a legitimate argument to make that if this is a weak quarterback draft class, the Titans can't take a quarterback just to take a quarterback. The Titans can't take a quarterback in the first round just to give them a little bit more insurance at the backup quarterback position, when there are plenty of other positions of need and when there could probably be plenty of other players that fall into the Titans' lap that they have ranked higher than, say, a quarterback. So it's a difficult situation here. It's not a strong quarterback class, and you don't want to take a quarterback, then what's your solution at quarterback? But if it's not a strong quarterback class and your guy's not there, you cannot take him in the first round.
Especially considering what other teams in the AFC are. Now, if you're in the NFC, the risk of taking, a good example here is the Detroit Lions, right? You're in the NFC. It's a weaker conference. You have the number 2 pick. You have multiple first-round picks. You can roll the dice on Malik Willis and maybe be able to have him develop for a year or two, and then maybe
he won't be available to the Titans at 26.
Exactly, yeah. Or even say they take the number 2 pick on Aiden Hutchinson, Evan Neal, whoever falls to number 2, whoever the Jags don't take between those guys. Say they go and take that player, and then with the last pick in the first round, take a Matt Corral or like we mentioned, Desmond Ridder, whoever's going to be there at 32. That they could have that player start right away, play in a conference that's not going to completely beat them up for a while, and kind of give them room to develop. The Titans are just in such a bad position. This is the worst possible year, not just because of the quarterback class for me, but because of the position the Titans are in. Because Jason Fitz he reeled off those names, the quarterbacks in the AFC, and it is a terrifying murder's row. When you have a division in your conference where the worst, quote-unquote worst, I'm throwing up the air quotes for those who aren't watching on the stream, quarterback in that division is Derek Carr, a guy who almost threw for 5,000 yards last season. You have an embarrassment of riches of QBs in that conference. If Malik Willis or Matt Corral or any of these guys had to start from day one in the AFC, they will not be the better quarterback in almost any game they play within that conference. And that's even including games you might play against the Jags, who won 2 games last year, but Trevor Lawrence is Trevor Lawrence and now has a fresh start with a coaching staff that's not incompetent and that doesn't abuse players the way that the reports were they did last season. So, even the Jags are going to get a lot better. I mean, Davis Mills at the back half of last year won the Texans some games and proved he could be a decent quarterback in the NFL. And if that's the floor of where quarterbacks are in the AFC, any rookie quarterback in any starting class, whether it be the best quarterback draft class we've seen, the 83 draft class, with Marino and Elway and all those guys having to play against the murderer's row of QBs that are in this conference right now, it's going to be really hard to get that development if their confidence is broken or shaken because they win 5 games and every game they play, they're having to outduel the top 10 quarterbacks in the league. This quarterback draft class and not having, that one player where you're instantly just enamored with and they're almost flawless in the evaluation process with almost no room to have to develop is going to be so tough in the AFC right now.
Let's go to your phones. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. If you have an NFL draft thought, but one texter texts in and says taking a quarterback will result in a 3rd straight year of not acquiring a first-round draft pick that is ready to play on day one. That is inexcusable in today's NFL. We do not have a second-round pick. The draft is deep in wide receivers and offensive linemen. You have to take one or the other and wait until next year's draft when the quarterback talent is deep.
I like that call.
I don't totally disagree with the texter's points being made here, but I do think that, when you say that taking a quarterback, it's inexcusable to take someone who's not able to contribute right away. I agree with you when you look at Isaiah Wilson, and I agree with you when we look at Caleb Farley, because those are 2 players that weren't able to produce in their first year as first-round talents. And when you're taken in the first round, that's the expectation that you're able to fill in immediately. Isaiah Wilson, is a bust, and that's obviously I mean, nobody's going to deliberate on that.
They're not going to get him any more snaps from him. No, he's done. Caleb Farley, you could still, I'm not out on the fact that Caleb Farley could contribute for this team. He wasn't able to do it in the 2021 season, what he was drafted to do, but they knew what they were drafting when they drafted Caleb Farley. They knew they were drafting an injured player. I don't know if you can make that same argument when drafting a quarterback, when drafting a player that you know that you're going to develop for the future. Because I understand the texture's point, that in a third year in a row, you're not getting production from your first-round pick. But when it's a quarterback and you know that you're drafting for the future, I have a different mindset in terms of that pick. Yeah, and I understand where you're coming from there, too, because it's a preparation for the future kind of thing. But just that risk is still insanely high, too, to not get production out of. Because if you draft him this year, the only way they're playing in the game is if Tannehill goes down and is hurt or has played really poorly, neither of which you're banking on making the playoffs in that scenario just because of how important the quarterback position is. And you don't want Desmond Ridder's first snaps to develop and become, your future at quarterback to be in week 12 when you're fighting for a playoff spot or you're 2 games behind the Colts in the division. That's tough. That's tough. And I think where I really like the message is not because you don't want someone to not produce in year one, which is what you always want to do. I just like the adding of weapons because it is at 26, you can get a wide receiver who might be the number 1 or 2 receiver in next year's draft just because it's that loaded. It's more of a value thing to me than anything else.
Tickets for the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix on August 5th through the 7th are on sale now. 1025 The Game has your chance to win 3-day passes to the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix now. Just text the word RACE, R-A-C-E, to the game text line at 615-737-1025 to get qualified to win. More details on the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix can be found at musiccitygp.com. Joe Rexrode joins us coming up next for our regularly scheduled programming of Jared versus Joe. We'll get Joe coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Stillman and Company, Caroline Fenton, Elijah Campbell. We're on ESPN 1025 The Game.
The MTSU Blue Raiders live here.
Touchdown, Middle Tennessee! 3-ball, yes, sir!
And when you're in the borough, tune us in on 97.5.
In the end zone, caught, touchdown!
We are Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
1025 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Pro Golf is back in Middle Tennessee. Mark your calendars for the Simmons Bank Open, May 5th through 8th. You can see the next wave of PGA Tour stars. Be sure to visit the Sand Trap at the 14th hole and check out great local food trucks, including Hattie B's, Hogwood Barbecue, Dream Burger, Padrino Pops, cocktails from Jack Daniels, and try the Sand Trap Cream Ale from New Heights Brewing Company. Purchase your tickets now at SimmonsBankOpen.com.
Realizing Geico's great service and licensed agents are available at your fingertips is like realizing the plastic piece that comes with your pizza isn't a tiny doll table. It's to keep the box from touching the pizza.
Hey, the pizza's stuck to the box. Where's that little plastic thing?
Dolly needed it for her tea party.
It's something that's been right there in front of you all along, like the dedicated Geico claims team available to you in the event of an accident to get you back on the road quickly, or how your smartphone charges faster when you put it on airplane mode.
Wow, what if I put it on rocket mode?
It's something you can't believe you never realized before, like how Geico's industry-leading app lets you pay your bill, file a claim, manage your policy, or summon help when you need it. Or how those holes in your shower caddy are there so you can store your shampoo bottles upside down.
Showers happen fast when you're not waiting on shampoo.
Great service. It's just one of the many reasons to switch to Geico. They're all right there in front of you.
Victory Award-winning New Amsterdam Vodka knows all about it, but in life, it's not always so clear. So New Amsterdam Vodka believes that in life, you've got to find your own wins. You've got to overcome your fears, go all in, even when you've got nothing at all. Find your wins. And when you do, raise that glass of New Amsterdam Vodka in victory. You've earned it. New Amsterdam Spirits Company, Modesto, California.
Cutting the price of your wireless bill feels good, really good. Actually, it feels great. You should try it out. So cut your bill by switching to Straight Talk Wireless, now offering our $45 Silver Unlimited plan with 5 gigabytes of hotspot and nationwide 5G on America's largest, most dependable networks. The $45 Silver Unlimited plan from Straight Talk. Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise.
A month equals 30 days. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary.
Spring into savings at Electronic Express. Get up to 40% off the latest 4K TVs from Samsung, LG, Sony, Hisense, TCL, and more. That's not all. Get huge savings in every department, like computers and gaming, smart home, housewares, mattresses, and more. Plus, save up to 40% on all appliances with up to 36 months free financing. Shop in-store or online with free express delivery on most items. Shop locally owned and family operated at Electronic Express. We make it happen.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Good morning! Robby and Rexrode mornings from 6 to 10.
It's not bad. Might have to work on that. Not bad. It's a starting point.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
A Cromwell media station.
Live from the Game Nashville studios, it's Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. With Karen Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. You can watch us streaming on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Presented by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. We are live from the Hillside Medical Game Studios. Joe Rexrode joins us now for Jared versus Joe. Jared versus Joe is brought to you by Parman Tractor and Equipment and Mayweather Boxing and Fitness, the gold standard in boxing fitness. Joe Rexrode, how are we doing?
Doing great. Now, this counts as a Jared forfeit, right?
I'll go ahead and give you the dub this week. So congratulations to
All
Joe.
right.
Jared versus
Thank you.
Joe.
All
No,
right.
Jared, just Joe.
Good deal. I'm excited. I'm in a great mood.
Well, Joe, first and foremost, I came up with a full docket of what to offer you and Jared, but I'll just give it to you, no Jared. First and foremost, Titans draft. What would you predict? The Titans at 26. Who are you betting on? Desmond Ridder, Jamison Williams, or the field?
Oh, okay. Ritter, I would go field on that. I would go field because I still don't have a great confidence in quarterback. I mean, look, I do think it's possible. I do think it could make sense. And it comes down to, really it comes down to conversations in that building that, that we're not privy to about just how strongly they feel about a particular guy. But I still think it's more likely that they are going to continue to, to build around Tannehill next year. And Jamison Williams, I think, the fact that he's hurt, of course, immediately John Robinson's eyebrow raises an excitement. But I actually have my questions about whether Jamison Williams will be there for them. So I'd feel pretty good about the field on that one.
So I was telling Elijah that last season, Caleb Farley was an absolute no-no for me, just coming off of the injury, albeit an ACL tear and a spinal reconstruction, gluing, put together, paper clipping and gumming, whatever it was that he had going on is completely different. But I look at Jamison Williams, and even if he does need to sit for, let's say, a month or two, you're looking at a September, October comeback, I'd be all for a Jamison Williams pick.
No, I'm with you. Look, Robert Woods, ACL. And I do think sometimes ACLs, it's amazing how different, that is from, of course, back in my day when ACL used to be like, basically your career's probably over. Maybe you'll come back as as like 60, 70% of yourself. And now it's like, oh, ACL, all right, a little bit of rehab, get on back out there. But yeah, I think especially with skill. Yeah, exactly. A little ankle sprain, all right, a little ice, and you're good. But I think especially with, obviously it can still be what we saw with Bud Dupree last year. I think Bud Dupree admitted he really wanted to live up to that deal right away. He wanted to be out there, and maybe he pushed a little too far. Taylor Lewan, at the very least, struggled with the mental side of coming back from an ACL, which is pretty common. You're overcompensating, for your injury early on. But with skill guys, for the most part, it's usually you're going to be fine. So I agree. If he's there, you're talking about a guy. Just the speed there is, and I honestly don't even remember his 40 time compared to some of the other guys. but we've seen him on the football field. He has a different gear than most people do.
Talking with Joe Rexrode. Joe, I like the Jameson Williams pick would be incredible because of what you're going to get for his career. But when we're talking about the window the Titans are in right now and wanting to use a first-round pick to be able to benefit right away, like still recovering from that ACL surgery, I mean, he might miss a few weeks of the season, but I think what we saw with the Julio Jones, Ryan Tannehill debacle, they were never able to get on the same page is because Julio Jones never be able to be on the field even in the training camp sessions or even before the season started, and that had a major effect on how they looked when he actually was able to get on the field. Does Robert Woods' injury in terms of when he's going to be able to get back on the field and create that rapport with Tannehill, or if they do take Jameson Williams and he's not able to get that until maybe late training camp or week 1 or 2 of the season, concern you at all?
Yeah, it's not ideal. Obviously you want those reps, and I think that was some level of problem. I still think the biggest problem with Julio is just not being able to be on the field enough, and having to leave games and also just not be what he even was a year earlier, because even though he had the hamstring in 2020, he still, to me, looked like and produced like Julio Jones when he was on the field. And then last year, I think it was still more just Julio not being Julio, and that, as we see, he's no one has signed him. Then I think he kind of fell off the table a little bit. But yeah, it's the thing. If you like you said, Elijah, you've got Robert Woods, so you're gonna have limitations there in the spring. Whereas normally this would be a time for heavy repetition and chemistry building. And then if you add in a Jameson Williams, then you've got you're clear 2 and 3, because again, all due respect to Nick Westbrook-Akina, he's a good 4, but he needs to be your 4. And so that's your clear 2 and 3. That keeps you from picking a Jameson Williams, but it is kind of problematic. And who knows, that could mean another loss or 2 early in the season that maybe you don't have, if you're full go from the start.
Yeah, and that's like the big dice roll with that is just the availability, because what Jameson Williams is, what his ceiling is. I mean, we saw what that was at Alabama this year and how much better he made that offense when he was actually on the field. But we talked a lot about receiver, because this draft is loaded with receivers. Like in Mel Kiper's mock draft, there are a ton that are taken even before the Titans get Jahan Dotson at 26. But another position that's been considered to be really deep is offensive line. And one of the more intriguing prospects I've seen, some have mocked to the Titans, some a little later, is Zion Johnson, because you can make him a guard or a center. He's very versatile. Or even a Trevor Penning at left tackle, who has gotten a reputation as being one mean dude. If the Titans were to look at the offensive line or bolstering the offensive line and having to maybe even replace Roger Saffold, who I think that acquisition for Buffalo is significant for them and their improvement over the offseason. But what player would you want the Titans to get if you're a Titans fan to boost that offensive line?
Well, it's tough, and again, it kind of goes back to the the discussion that I've had on here with Jared and Caroline previously about interior or tackle. I don't look. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I have a great feel for this lineman over that lineman. I'm going by what Dane Brugler and people who study closely at the Senior Bowl like. But I do like that Zion Johnson looked good at center, and I just feel like because I think with either one, you mentioned left tackle. I think the Titans, if they do draft a tackle, they got to draft someone they feel can start at right tackle this year. So I think if they do that, then then they are confirming what Jared believes, which is that Dylan Radins just doesn't have it, or they don't believe he has it. So maybe that guy could be Lawan's replacement down the road. You obviously want a tackle who can play both sides, but I would want someone who it would be a pretty seamless transition to right tackle. Remember, Dylan Radins was a left tackle strictly in college, and I'm not saying that's why he struggled last year, but never played right tackle, sat out a year. Kind of predictable that there would be struggles. I think if you're going to draft a tackle, then like this year, you're trying to draft people who are going to finally, early in a draft, help your team, which we have not seen in recent years from the Tennessee Titans. And so you got to draft someone who can step right in, boom, plug and play, right tackle. But maybe as Lewan's replace it later. Your offense, if you go interior, you could go with a Linderbaum. I don't hate that. I don't hate a Linderbaum because you could have your center for a long time. But the problem is, how does that help you this season? I mean, if he isn't someone who can, slide over to guard, then basically you just have it's like drafting a quarterback, and this year you're going to sit, and eventually you're going to have a chance at the starting job. That's not ideal. So you got to think about, to me, if you're going to go there, who can jump in early? Obviously you're thinking long-term too, but you need impact on this team on the field in 2022.
All right, Joe, next, Jared versus Joe question I had scheduled for you. We saw John Robinson go to several pro days of offensive linemen that are slated to go in the first round. You're looking at Trevor Penning out of Northern Iowa, Kenyon Green out of Texas A&M. But we also saw Mike Vrabel at a Cincinnati pro day, who was most likely going to look at Desmond Ridder. How much stock can we put into John Robinson and Mike Vrabel going to these pro days? Could that be a peek behind the curtain of what they're thinking? Notably, John Robinson going to several offensive line pro days. Or could that all be a smokescreen?
Well, I don't think it's a smokescreen. I think you just have to evaluate. You have to evaluate all those positions. You have to. I think even every year, even if you're a team that has a great quarterback situation, let's say you're fine at QB, I think you still have to do your homework on the quarterbacks, because you just don't know what's going to come up down the road. And now you get caught unprepared. You have to know every player in this league, and that starts now, because 2-3 years from now, you go back to these evaluations. You have a file on everyone, and the GMs who succeed in this league have an ability to go, you know what? Let's go. Remember this 3 years ago and what he did with the Giants in that third preseason game? We like that. Okay. How's he developed since then? You have to know everyone. So I don't think it's a smokescreen, but I don't know that we can read too much into it. Like Vrabel going to Cincinnati's pro day. He was at Ohio State the day before. You'd be crazy not to go to Ohio State's pro day, especially because Vrabel can go to his house he owns there, take a dip in the pool or whatever. Then you go see your best friend at Cincy.
Nice little vacation in Columbus.
Maybe stop at Urban Meyer's bar, whatever you may want to do in Columbus, Ohio.
And whatever Mike Vrabel wants to do, he can do on his own time.
What could go wrong?
Yeah.
So then you're going to take a short drive over there and see your best friend, your best friend since freshman year of college, Luke Fickell. In the meantime, all right, you also had your QB coach there, so that you got two people there, which is interesting. I think it makes total sense to do the absolute most you can do in terms of evaluation of the quarterback position. All these guys, I think the 30 visits, the Titans historically, and I don't know if they really depart that much from other teams. This would be an interesting piece. This would be interesting to read, teams that most stick to their 30 visits in the draft, and maybe that's been done. I'd love to see an updated database of that, but that to me is often very interesting because you only have 30 to use. So to me, the guys on that 30, I know the Titans in past years under Robinson, a lot of the guys they have drafted have been among those guys that they've had come in for one of those 30 visits.
Coming up next, more Jared versus Joe with a whole lot more Joe this week. We'll get Joe's thoughts on the Predators game last night and the playoff race that the Predators find themselves in the Central Division. Stillman and Company, Caroline Fenton, Elijah Campbell. We're live on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Join ESPN 102.5 The Game for the Music City Celebrity Golf Tournament. Benefiting Folds of Honor on May 16th at Hermitage Golf Course. Put your team together and come play with the athletes, musicians, and other local celebrities. The Music City Celebrity Golf Tournament. Sign up at theGameNashville.com/golf.
Now through April 14th, join a clean and spacious Planet Fitness for $1 down and only $10 a month.
With tons of equipment and free fitness training, it's the perfect place for everybody to work out.
Even me, Mr. I can't sleep at night, so I keep dozing off during the day.
Especially you, Snoozy. You'll rest easier and feel fit-tacular.
Wait, how did you get in here?
Join in club or at planetfitness.com. $1 down, $10 a month, cancel anytime. Hurry, deal ends April 14th. See club for details.
Genesis Diamond's Spectacular Spring Extravaganza is coming April 22nd through 24th. 3 incredible days of store-wide savings. Up to 35% off engagement rings, earrings, bracelets, wedding bands, plus special financing. Even Genesis GIA certified diamonds are marked down. Plus, top jewelry designers are flying in with all new amazing designs. If you're popping the question soon or just looking for some new sparkle, you can't miss this annual event. Save up to $10,000 on some items. It's April 22nd through 24th and only at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs. See store for details.
Golfers, swing into Edwin Watts Golf Shops for the hottest new arrivals from Titleist, featuring the new Titleist Vokey SM9 wedges, their most superior handcrafted wedge design ever. The new SM9 grooves are cut to maximize the interaction of ball and face for lower flight and higher spin. Get precise distance and trajectory control like a pro with the SM9s. Swing by Edwin Watts Golf Shops and get custom fit today. Edwin Watts Golf Shops, home of the 90-day satisfaction guarantee, and shop us online at worldwidegolfshops.com.
Bank of England Mortgage has been helping Americans live the dream of home ownership for over 100 years. Since their humble beginnings in England, Arkansas, they've gone from a community bank to a nationwide mortgage lender. BOE delivers innovative mortgage products with superior customer service and the most knowledgeable loan officers in Nashville. Find your nearest location in Middle Tennessee at BOE1214.com or call 615-823-1215. Bank of England Mortgage is a division of Bank of England Mortgage. Equal housing lender, member FDIC, NMLS 418-481.
Bring your hive together with Spirited Hive. It's Hive O'Clock. What is Hive O'Clock? It's connecting or celebrating with your hive. A time to be present and create shared memories. At Spirited Hive, we become aficionados discerning what goes best with bourbon, tequila, and vodka. Bourbon whiskey with rosemary infused with honey and lemon. Tequila ginger infused with honey and lime. Or vodka cranberry infused with honey and lime. Available to purchase on reservebar.com or tap room for delivery within the hour. Join us at Spirited Hive on Instagram to see what the buzz is all about.
Interact with Stillman and Company. Call or text the show at 615-737-1025. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
Stillman and Company. Jared versus Joe. Jared versus Joe is brought to you by Parman Tractor and Equipment and Mayweather Boxing and Fitness, the gold standard in boxing fitness. Joe Rexrode joins us now for Jared versus Joe. Now, first and foremost, Joe, we're going to switch to the Predators side of things because there was a game last night that was absolutely, positively less than thrilling. And I think what we've seen from the Predators over the past few months is that the Predators tend to play up to difficult opponents and play down to their opponents who may not necessarily be in the same playoff race that the Predators find themselves now. So my question for you, Joe Rexrode, with the Predators' remaining schedule, you're looking at the St. Louis Blues, Minnesota Wild, Tampa Bay Lightning. Are you encouraged because the Preds do tend to play up to their opponents? Or are you discouraged because these are very difficult opponents and this is a very tight playoff race?
Well, first of all, I think last night was huge. It was not what you want. You don't want to be having to go to overtime. You don't want UC Saros to have to do the splits to keep, Thomas Hertl from beating you in overtime. I mean, that's not ideal. But actually, I thought the Preds dominated the game. They just didn't finish last night. And sometimes you run into another goaltender who's playing really well. And I watching that game last night the whole time, and I tweeted it and was called a negative Nelly. But I'm watching that and I'm like, this is exactly. But I'm like, this is exactly the kind of game that teams lose so often. They're playing a team that's just playing up the string. They know they have to win. They're dominating, but you one extra move or one pass and you should have just shot it, or you shot it too fast. They're not finishing, and then the Sharks are going to get some fluky goal, and they're going to lose. But for them to get 2 points now, I feel pretty good about where the Preds are. So you're up 4 on Vegas with a game in hand. That's the bottom line. To me, it would be, look, like you said, Caroline, they have tough games ahead. So anything is possible at this point. But getting those 2 points, and I know it would have been ideal for Vegas to get none last night, but they only got 1. And I think I just, if I had to make a prediction right now, I don't think the Preds will be like playing the last game at Arizona to get in the playoffs. I think they're going to end up coming down to. Yeah, I think they're going to be okay. And remember, Vegas, even if they get going, the Kings just had to shelve Drew Doughty for the year. And so I can't imagine both of those teams finishing ahead of the Preds, along with Dallas. They would all have to. I think it's going to end up being the Preds and Dallas fighting it out to not be the 8th seed, to not be the second wild card, which, of course, second wild card is going to get Colorado. First wild card is going to get Calgary. I think it's going to be more of that. Now, hey, could be wrong, and the Preds could plummet here. But I like how Saros is playing lately. I was a little concerned that he was maybe wearing out. They've gotten him a little rest. I thought he was great last night. He didn't have to see a lot of shots, but when he saw some primo ones, he did the job. Can't argue with a shutout. And again, I thought they played well last night. Bad team, but still dominated the game. So I think they're going to end up being okay. And I don't know, though. Dallas has an easier schedule down the stretch, so I wouldn't be surprised if the Preds are the 8 and have to start out in Denver.
And you mentioned UC Saros, and that was going to be my next question for you, was there's a very delicate balance here with UC Saros in the fact that the Predators do have a very difficult stretch coming down, and they are in a very tight playoff race, but UC Saros does look overworked. So my question for you, Joe, you're John Hines. How do you approach UC Saros' workload for the rest of the season?
Well, I think you got to push the pedal to the floor right now and hope that that last trip is at Colorado, at Arizona. Hope that you're just playing for the 7 or the 8, and in that case, if he is just worn down, okay, big save, Dave, get in there. But I don't think that you can mess around with it right now. If you mess around with it and give him like an extra day, what that maybe you normally wouldn't have, and then you lose that game because Riddick was in there. That's a critical mistake. So you gotta ride him. I think that you in the back-to-backs you still plan to go with Riddick in the second of a back-to-back, but you know what? Still keeping an open mind on that too. And in a certain situation. Well, Robby Stanley on our show today was talking about this. You've got an early game Saturday, and then you've got like a 5 p.m. game Sunday against St. Louis. Early game Saturday against Chicago, 5 p.m. So it's more than 24 hours later. I mean, you could make the case, play him in both of these games. I would still say, maybe that's where Riddick comes into play for one of them, but.
And that's where I get worried because you play him in a back-to-back, and then you got the playoffs, and you need UC Saros in every game in the playoffs, especially if you get the 8 seed and you're playing Colorado.
Oh, for sure, yeah. No, I mean, look, and that's why again, if you push it now, I wouldn't necessarily push it with the back-to-back this weekend, but he's got to lead you to the playoffs, and if you get it done and really get going here, then maybe you can actually give him a few days before the playoffs begin at the end, because those games aren't life or death. They're not for getting into the playoffs.
Joe, the goalie, that position's one equation to all this, but UC's obviously had an incredible season, and then we all know the year that Roman Yossi's having, historic for defensemen, and he could put himself in some pretty elite category in the history of the NHL, depending on how these next few weeks unfold. And you got 38 goals from Matt Duchene and Philip Forsberg, and your rookies are playing phenomenal. Going into last night, the Preds had more goals from rookies than any team in the NHL, second most points from rookies and from any team in the NHL. You're getting this much production out of your stars and your rookies. You're still fighting for a playoff spot, though. So my question to you is, what is the one thing about this team that can keep them from making that playoff spot?
What, from getting into the playoffs?
Yeah, from just getting into the playoffs.
Yeah, well, they still – I think they've cleaned it up, but it's still the concern of just that critical mistake. And I think that's where this has been a healthy season. I mean, Forsberg missed some time early. It's been incredibly healthy in terms of the forwards. I mean, here and there, Borowiecki cuts up his fists every game. Of course, but he's in the defense where there have been some injuries, and I think that's been part of the problem. at times just the inconsistency with the lineup, different pairings, and some mistakes. That's not an excuse. I mean, sometimes it's forwards making mistakes in the D zone, but they've had too many of those in too many games, and that to me is, you can't give up these breakaways, these odd man rushes. I think they do that too often. So that would be my concern, along with just, do you have enough scoring? They have not been scoring many goals lately. Yeah, I thought last night was a case of they got opportunities. Against Florida Saturday, I just didn't see enough 5-on-5. And John Hines is tinkering with that top six. Basically, you got 4 of those top 6 who have been dynamite. I mean, Granlund hasn't scored a lot of goals, but he's done what you want him to do. And those other 2 spots have just floated around, and you're just trying to find, someone to fill them and give you what you need. Like Tomasino, very promising rookie season to me, but is he ready right now down the stretch and in the playoffs to produce and be, a top 6 forward who can make a difference? I don't know that. So I think to me it's D-zone coverage and mistakes, and then it's really just manufacturing enough 5-on-5 offense. We know the power play is dangerous, and I'm confident in the power play. It's going to create chances and I think score, but you got to score 5-on-5, and you got to find someone else to help the forwards who have been great all year.
And one more thing too, if they get not the last wild card spot, because that's the one who's going to play Colorado, who no one's going to want to play, and rightfully so, because they're pretty damn good. But the Flames also, almost at 100 points on the season too, but the Pacific Division is significantly less than the Central Division, in my opinion. The opinion of a lot of people too. But if the Preds do get put there, where they have to play Calgary, and if they win, get the winner of the Kings and Oilers, how confident are you that the Preds can actually end up making a postseason run?
Yeah, and that's a great point, and I think that's certainly something, we were talking with Adam Venga, and he mentioned that too. Like, you don't want to get ahead of yourself because Calgary is really good, and the Preds would be, they would be the underdog in either of those series, and I would have a hard time picking them to win either series, but I do think you have a better chance against Calgary, and I know the Preds have played very well against the Wild this year. They seem to match up well. I would much rather be looking at Edmonton and either the Kings or Knights than I would at the Wild and Blues. So I think that your path to a run is definitely better as the number 7 overall in the West as opposed to the number 8.
Joe Rexrode, we appreciate you. Although you do get the win by default this week, I am willing to give Jared Stillman an A for effort today.
Well, I thank you for the win. I've imagined some of Jared's answers to this. I think he would have given some really bad answers, and it would have been a clear W. I can't prove that, but I appreciate it, and I hope that Jared's all right.
Jared's doing just fine. Joe Rexford, we appreciate you for joining us for Jared versus Joe. But coming up next, am I incredibly irrational for being more concerned or upset with some of John Hines' comments than some of the production on the ice? We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline Fenton, Elijah Campbell, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Jump in the mind of an NHL veteran as Predators analyst Hal Gill joins Stillman Company Tuesday afternoons at 5:30.
Here they are in a pressure situation every night because they need 2 points.
And Robby and Rexrode Thursday mornings at 9:30.
Goaltending, I think it might be an issue at some point.
Presented by Duncan on Smashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hal Gill here for my good friends at Duncan. You know I love Duncan, and I'm wicked happy that Dunks is all over Nashville. A newly remodeled next-gen Duncan location is at 1645 West Main Street in Lebanon. Of course, Dunks has the best coffee, but they have new spring items available as well. Try the salted caramel cream cold brew, shamrock macchiato made with Irish cream swirl, and the roasted tomato toast with hummus or avocado. They also have amazing chocolate croissants. So go treat yourself, go get your Dunks.
Mint And what if I told you that now you're able to get testosterone replacement therapy in the comfort of your own home? No more weekly trips to the doctor's office. We come to you 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. Be seen by a licensed medical professional in the privacy and comfort of your own home or office. You decide. Schedule your appointment today at CoolSpringsMDformen.com.
312 Pizza Company is Nashville's authentic Chicago pizzeria, and they're now hiring. Work for a family-owned business and be a part of their incredible team. 312 Pizza Company is hiring for all positions, including host, waitstaff, bartenders, cooks, and more. 312 Pizza Company offers health insurance and paid time off to full-time employees. Contact Kimberly at 615-730-7888 or email at contact@312pizzaco.com. 312 is an equal opportunity employer.
Smokeville Smoke Shop has been serving Hendersonville and Metro Nashville since 2015 and is committed to providing high-quality, hands-on, and personable customer service. Stop into Smokeville Smoke Shops in Hendersonville, Gallatin, Hermitage, and Goodlettsville to try any of their wide selection of locally sourced products and selection of top nationwide brands, including vapes, hookah, hand-blown glass, detox systems, e-juices, kratom products, leaf wraps, and much more. Visit Smokeville Smoke Shops today.
From installing a smart garage door opener, to installing a bathroom faucet, to removing a tree, the Home Depot believes you can do anything, especially the things we have how-to guides for. Visit HomeDepot.com for thousands of tips, workshops, and ideas for projects, big and small. The Home Depot app, how doers get more done.
Mary had a little gnat, little gnat, little gnat. Mary had a little gnat that flew around her home. Everywhere a Zevo glows, Zevo glows, Zevo glows, and everywhere a Zevo glows, the gnat was sure to go.
Zevo traps use blue and UV light, not odors or chemical insecticides, to attract and trap flying insects. Just plug it in and trap bugs around the clock. Zevo, people friendly, bug deadly. Now at a store near you.
Play ball! Feliciano is in, and it's 4-3 Sounds.
The Nashville Sounds are on the road as they take on the Gwinnett Stripers.
Swing and miss, strike three, and the Sounds win.
Coverage begins at 5:50 on your home for the Sounds.
ESPN
94.9 and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Nashville, Trey Wingo here. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
ESPN 102.5 The Game. Stillman and Company, Caroline Fenton and Elijah Campbell hanging with you here today. Now, Elijah, my take on the Predators game last night. Mike Vrabel says it so often. It wasn't pretty, but it was beautiful. The win was not pretty by any means, but I think at this point you're going to take the 2 points rather than not 2 points. Now, I have my qualms with last night's game. It's a game that absolutely positively should not have gone into overtime. The Predators are scratching and clawing their way into the playoffs, and the San Jose Sharks are just counting down the days until their Cabo trips at the end of April. The Predators are a much better team than the San Jose Sharks. I don't know how you go out and compete with one of the best teams in the league in the Florida Panthers, essentially losing 2-1 with the two empty netters.
Right,
putting up a good fight against the Penguins and Sidney Crosby, and going out and beating some of the better teams in the league, especially the Minnesota Wild just a few short weeks ago, and then you can't even put a shot in the net against the San Jose Sharks. That's incredibly frustrating. The Predators had a ton of looks last night that just didn't go in. That's incredibly frustrating. They turned the puck over in crunch time. UC Saros saved their asses. But then again, I go back to say these were 2 points that the Predators absolutely needed. And I think at this point in the season, we've seen that the Predators unfortunately play games like this. They play up to their opponents and they play down to bad opponents. But they got to win. 2 points were important. I'm not incredibly discouraged by that game last night. Yeah, you would have liked to have seen the Preds score a few more goals. Yeah, you would have liked to have seen the Predators look a little bit more dominant, especially going into this difficult stretch coming down the pipe. But even still, I'm not overly concerned about what we saw last night.
Yeah.
I want to get to my point, but also your thoughts on the game last night. Are you overly concerned about what you saw from the Predators last night?
Not one bit. I actually think that that kind of game is such a trap game because the Sharks are one of those teams that have a ton of talent. Like, they underachieved massively this year. They've been a huge disappointment, but Timo Meier and Tomas Hertl, they have two guys that can score the puck at will. Two guys that are really good offensive players. They have a good balance of good young talent that's going to be on that team for a while, that they've signed up for long-term contracts, and a lot of veteran experience. Like Logan Couture I feel like he's only 32, but I feel like he's 42. And I feel like he's been a San Jose Sharks staple for a lot longer than he has been. But defensively and their goaltending, like, that's where they've fallen off this year. Like, the goaltending has been really, really bad for this team, and they had Kakinen in net last night, a guy they picked up via trade. So they're kind of just working him in.
Pretty solid game last night from him.
He was solid. Yeah, and he gave the Sharks something they haven't had all season long, and that is a reliable presence in net. I mean, Aiden Hill and James Reimer have not been doing it for those guys all season long. I think the biggest thing for me is that the Preds, when you watch the game, has had a lot of chances, and, like, sometimes, like, that's hockey. Like, puck luck is a term that you hear all the time, especially in the playoffs, where if you're generating a ton of chances, then you do have some of those nights where only one goes in, and sometimes it takes your goalie to save your ass for you to stay in it. I'm not, obviously, like, you're not going to tell me that the Preds win a 1-0 game like that, and I'm not going to be, like, incredibly thrilled, but I think it is massive how big or it's huge that they got those 2 points because of, like you mentioned, like, the schedule ahead. Like, the Oilers are going to be tough because you have two of the best players in the sport coming into your building. And given what they had to do this past weekend, where they at least stole a point in one game against the Penguins and Panthers, two playoff teams in the East, you'll take what you had last night, even though our new favorite Yogi Berra-esque saying that if you didn't tell me that Mike Vrabel said that, I would have believed it was a Yogi Berra saying, where it's not.
It is very Yogi Berra.
Yeah.
Yogi Berra-esque, isn't it?
It is a Yogiism that Yogi Berra never actually got to say, but it was perfect for last night. Like, it's survive in advance at this point. You got to get those 2 points. They got those 2 points, and you can delete that from the memory. And if you can if you can take away points from the teams that you should, I think they're better than the Oilers. They're much better than the Blackhawks. If you can get 4 points out of there, you buy yourself margin for error. And last night bought them some margin for error when they get to play the games like they do on Sunday against a team like the Blues.
Exactly. Take care of business against the easy teams, and that way your job gets significantly more easier coming down the stretch. Now, I think that you and I both laid out plenty of reasons for us, for fans, to be frustrated or angry with the Predators about last night, seeing as though they did have so many opportunities that they just did not take advantage of. The fact that they turned the puck over, the fact that it went into overtime against a team that's really not that good. But I'm not angry about it, or I'm not, putting too much real estate into the game last night. You're not either. But am I irrational in being so much more frustrated with what John Hines had to say after the game more than the action that I saw on the ice last night in the game? This is what John Hines had to say in his post-game press conference.
There's certainly no easy nights. I think particularly this time of year, they're all hard, I think, as we've seen coming down the stretch here. I think the big thing for me is that I really liked our team's mental preparation tonight. I think when you look at the start of the game, the commitment level that we played with and without the puck, we iced the game that should give you a chance to win night in and night out, regardless of the opponent. And I think we've learned some lessons in the past that maybe we haven't iced the game that gives us the best chance to win, regardless of who we play. I thought tonight we did that, and it was a hard-fought battle. And we knew coming in that the last time we played San Jose, it was a little bit of a blowout, so they're going to come in more committed, some different players in the lineup. But I really compliment our guys tonight on being ready for the game and willing to accept the challenge as the game continued to unfold, what that challenge presented.
The turnovers and not scoring goals doesn't bug me nearly as much as John Hines' comments. Because just based off of what he had to say, you would have thought that this was a pristine picture perfect from the Nashville Predators last night. Coming in with mental toughness, which whatever the heck that means, that just sounds like Coach Talk 101, mental toughness. And, every game is tough. Don't give me that, John. You know that a San Jose Sharks game, a team that's coming into Nashville with nothing to play for, a team that you beat just a couple months ago, 8-0, don't sell it to me that, every game is hard and every game is important, because that game shouldn't have been hard. And I just the happy-go-luckiness and the credit given where I didn't necessarily think credit was due, and John Hines' comments there just made me so frustrated, because the game didn't overly frustrate me. I'm not taking a ton away from the game, because I do think that the Predators, that's just what they do. They play down to bad opponents, and they'll snap right back up against the St. Louis Blues or the Minnesota Wild, and they'll look like a team that can make a run in the playoffs. But John Hines saying, our mental toughness was really good last night. And you know what, San Jose, they got beat bad by us last time, so they're coming back with a little bit more committed. John Hines, no, they're not. It's April 13th, and they're not going to the playoffs. They're closer to Cabo than they are to the playoffs. It rubbed me all sorts of wrong ways, and I don't know if I'm irrational for that or not.
You might be alone in that one. Maybe you're not.
I think I might be.
I think he kind of gave a lot of canned responses. I think he would have said that. I think this was a tough game was something he would have said if they won 1-0 or if they won 8-0 like they did a couple weeks ago, or about a month or so ago. I think the one thing that I think is kind of true about it is when it comes to winning a lot of these games, like mentally, you don't want to look ahead just because, like this weekend, the game against the Blues is significant. The game against the Blackhawks is going to be big. And the game against the Oilers, like where you're playing a significantly better team than the team that was in town last night, especially with what they can produce. I mentioned how much I like watching the Sharks with Meyer and Couture and a lot of those guys, but amplify that by playing McDavid and Draisaitl. Draisaitl's got 51 goals on the season. They're going to come into town, and that is going to be a significant test. A team that is playing for playoff positioning and a team that is going to be in the playoffs. Like, this could have been a trap game because of that, because you don't want to look ahead to that game. You don't want to look ahead to Sunday's game, because you know that they've looked at the schedule and said, all right, between us and Dallas, we have a harder schedule right now. It's going to be a tougher road for us. I think that's where there might have been some truth to where he really, really believes what he was saying. And I actually kind of agree with him like that. Like, this one's not easy just because it's the Sharks. Roster, top heavy, not very deep. Defensively, they've been really disappointing. They have some bad contracts on that team. And like I mentioned with the goaltending situation, it's atrocious. They've been really bad this year in that area. So the team itself is nowhere near the team the Predators are. I just think the biggest hurdle wasn't like just the team on the ice. It was where you're at, considering this is going to be, outside the Blackhawks game, the easiest one you're going to play for a hot second.
And I do totally understand that at this point in the season, it's difficult. Like, it's a grind. Guys aren't even nearly close to 100% healthy. You're playing back-to-back games. Like, this has been an incredibly tough stretch. But I just look at that, and I understand it. I get it. But they made their job so much more difficult on themselves last night. And taking that game to overtime and extending it longer than it needed to be. And not acknowledging that and, calling out the mental toughness, and I don't even know what that means.
I have a hard time defining that.
Gets me. It's just, it's the same thing as competitive rebuild. Like, I understand what you mean, but also, what does it mean?
Yeah, it's hard to define. It's very, very hard to define, like, mental toughness. And I guess it's like, I don't know, maybe not giving up, maybe not pouting when I guess you're not scoring, but that one's hard to define too. Like, it's easy to be frustrated with that and just and come away with, well, they should have won that game by a lot more, but they're mentally tough because they didn't win that game by as much as they should have. So that's where I come away with some of those responses were absolutely canned. Like, he's got like a word bank in his brain for no matter what the outcome is of that game, he's going to recycle and throw out there.
And I mean, Predators got 2 points. That's the most important thing at this point whenever you're in a playoff race. The Predators got 2 points. By the grace of God, by the grace of UC Soros, they survived it. On to the next one and on to tomorrow night's game. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. But another big-time series going on in another sport that, does anyone in Nashville, like, really? Have they been paying attention to it? What's been going on? We'll get Elijah's thoughts. I'll get my thoughts as well. Stillman and Company, ESPN 1025 The Game.
From Fox 17 News, This is a code red weather alert.
Strong to severe thunderstorms will roll through Middle Tennessee throughout the evening with an ETA in Nashville around 9 p.m. All modes of severe weather possible clearing overnight. For Fox 17, I'm Chief Meteorologist Katie Morgan.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Gary Ashton here. Most people in Nashville know me as the don't sell without the intel and the guaranteed offer guy. But despite my accent, I'm also 100% guaranteed Nashville. I'm a guaranteed musician, a guaranteed dog lover, and you're also guaranteed to see me at every Titans and Preds game. Guaranteed offer means the Gary Ashton team with RE/MAX Advantage will sell your house for top dollar with no cleaning, staging, showings, or open houses, and give you up to 90 days to close. So there's plenty of time to find your next home. Guaranteed Nashville means my team lives here and loves it here. We've served Nashville for over 20 years, and we're passionate about helping the people we call neighbors and friends, which is why we've had a long-standing tradition of donating to the Vanderbilt Children's Hospital. If you're thinking about a guaranteed offer, get the only one that's guaranteed Nashville. Request a no-obligation offer by calling 615-301-1650 or go to GaryAshton.com today. Remember, Gary Ashton, guaranteed Nashville.
Spring has sprung, which means it's time to renew your home with Social Furniture. It's their Spring Fling sale, where all furniture is up to 50% off. That's right, up to 50% off on top name brands such as Serta, Sealy, Simmons, Caracol, Bernhardt, and Woodhouse. At Social Furniture, you'll find new bedroom furniture, mattresses, and sofas, all up to 50% off. Spring into Social Furniture today on Charlotte Avenue in West Nashville. Shop local, shop social. Social Furniture is a proud supporter of your Nashville Predators.
Machine journalism.
They are 2 scores behind you. The math says that increases your chances of winning.
With sports fandom.
I stayed up till 1:30 in the morning, just emotionally numb from Titans and Packers.
And sarcasm.
You guys are the worst.
Robby Stanley and Joe Rexrode are Robby and Rexrode. No duh. Weekday mornings from 6 to 10. Brought to you by Little Guys Movers on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Watch live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube.
You're listening to Stillman and Company, delivered by TriStar Moving.
Stillman and Company, Caroline Fenton, Elijah Campbell hanging with you here. So tickets for the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix August 5th through the 7th are on sale now. 1025 The Game has your chance to win 3-day passes to the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix now. Just text the word RACE, R-A-C-E, to the game text line at 615-737-1025 to get qualified to win. More details on the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix can be found at musiccitygp.com. Elijah Campbell, I'm going to preface this by saying I understand that Nashville is not an NBA city. I understand that there is an overwhelming majority of hockey, baseball, and football fans in this city, but there is the NBA play-in tournament going on right now. And I'll preface this by saying I didn't watch either of the play-in games last night. Did you?
I did. Yeah, I definitely had some intrigue. Ended up watching both of them, and for different reasons too, but I'm not going to lie, Caroline. I kind of really dig the format, and I like how the NBA it's an outside-of-the-box idea to be able to mix up your product, and teams that are considered playing like in purgatory, teams that have been like the Minnesota Timberwolves, who have been insanely bad for a decade, and even in their best years are like 8 seeds in their respective conference, and they really don't play for much because the last time they actually been in the playoffs in the last decade, they got swept, and it wasn't remotely close. And last night, they acted like they won something because it was something significant. They got to play in the spotlight. It got to like highlight a mid-market that has some fun talent to watch. Like the Timberwolves are a fun team, but they're playing in a loaded conference where they're going to end up 7th at the end of the regular season, but that gave them something really cool to play for. I love the experiment aspect of the NBA doing this little play-in tournament. People have ragged on it the last 2 years, but you've gotten some really fun games these last 2 seasons that have a lot of significance and meaning to them and have that legitimate playoff feel and a chance to actually win with stakes that mean moving on to something or saving your season, that a lot of those type of teams don't get to play for during the season, and those markets don't get every year.
And I said I didn't watch the games last night, but hearing all the discussion about it and seeing all of the talk on social media today.
Oh, it was everywhere. The Minnesota game was
really
weird.
Fun. It looked really fun, and like all of the discussion about it, I kind of had a little bit of FOMO, a little bit of fear of missing out. But
Right.
it made me want to watch the games tonight. I don't really have an NBA alliance. I'm not an NBA diehard fan, but it made me want to watch the games tonight. And I look at that Minnesota game, and so many people criticizing the Minnesota Timberwolves for essentially, celebrating what seemed like an NBA championship when it was really just an NBA play-in win. And so many people saying, oh, poor Minnesota Timberwolves, that's pathetic, that's embarrassing. But I saw that and I thought, good for you, Timberwolves fans.
Yeah.
Life is too short to not celebrate the little wins. So, I mean, all of that, including the glue girl.
That might be the weirdest thing I've ever seen in a live sporting event, because I looked away from my iPad for like 5 or 6 seconds. I look back on it, and they're showing people standing around the glue girl, and play was stopped for like 10 minutes. And I'm like, what's going on here? And then Malika Andrews had that report that a woman glued her hand to the floor in some kind of protest. I was like, you couldn't make any of this. You can't make this kind of stuff up. Like, it got weird last night in Minnesota, from the glue girl to Karl Anthony Towns forgetting how to play defense without hacking the hell out of somebody for almost the entire game and fouling out with like 6 minutes left, to Patrick Beverley almost speaking in tongues after winning that game because he was so excited that they won it. You got a good combination of weird pro sports last night. And if that's what the NBA play-in can give you, I'd like to see other teams implement something kind of like that.
And for those who didn't see it, yeah, the girl, a fan at the Minnesota Timberwolves game, put glue on her hand and tried to stick her hand on the court, I'm assuming in protest. And I saw several replays of the game, and Allie LaForce was the sideline reporter for that game, and they were asking her all sorts of questions, and she just said, I don't know. I literally don't know why this grown woman was trying to glue her hand to the court. And then the post game, all of the celebrations, all of the Minnesota fans, the Minnesota players, throwing their towels and spraying the crowd with water. I mean, all of that combined with just a really good matchup of two teams that seemed pretty evenly matched up.
Very evenly matched.
It made me interested, somebody who isn't normally interested in the NBA.
Yeah, the quality of basketball was great. And like, that's one of the biggest complaints in the NBA in the last decade, is that your early rounds of the playoffs are a lot of blowouts because there's a big talent discrepancy, but you get really cool games. Like that Timberwolves and Clippers game was a fantastic game. A ton of lead changes back and forth. A couple teams that had incredible scoring performances. Like Paul George was fantastic last night, and he was dueling with Anthony Edwards and D'Angelo Russell, and they were just going tit for tat the entire game. Like, it was fantastic basketball at a high level with things that meant something. A playoff spot was on the line. And I mean, you can probably pick 3 or 4 games at the Target Center in Minneapolis that have had atmospheres like that. I'm not a Timberwolves expert. I've never been to a game at the Target Center, but I can bet you a lot of money that they have not had atmospheres like that in a long time. Like, this game actually meant something for them. And if you're the NBA, that's what you want. You want a great product that's going to mean something to the people and teams involved. And like you had it last year, like the Warriors-Lakers game last year, the playing game was fantastic. You had a duel between Steph Curry and LeBron James. You had good crowd engagement. Like, it was really exciting. If it gives you an exciting product, then I can't dump on it. It was good basketball, and good for the people of Minnesota to actually get to celebrate something involving the NBA that's not winning the NBA draft lottery. So good for them.
So you do mention the Lakers, and while I have our basketball king in the studio, I do want to ask you this. LeBron, infamously walking off the court the other day whenever the Lakers did eliminate themselves from playoff contention out of the play-in game. Do you think, I have my thoughts on this. I want to hear yours. Do you think it's a good thing for the NBA that this playoff will be LeBron-less?
In a way, because it'll introduce you to new stars and new players that you wouldn't have been accustomed to beforehand. Like, I'm a lifelong Laker fan. I'll throw that out there right now, and I'm glad this team is not in the playoffs because they were just a bad basketball team. They weren't fun to watch. Like, if I want to watch Russell Westbrook chuck up 25 shots a game and have maybe half of them hit the rim, I'll go watch YouTube highlights somewhere, or lowlights, whatever you want to call them. They just weren't a very good basketball team. LeBron was fantastic this year. The Lakers were not. It's going to stink to not have him in the playoffs because he does bring such a crowd. But if it gets to highlight a lot of the talent that's in the NBA now, we're about to watch Nikola Jokic play playoff basketball, and that guy might be one of the greatest passers in the history of the NBA. But the Nuggets aren't on national TV a ton. They're going to be now because all these playoff games are nationally televised. The nation will now see more of Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies. Like, we're going to see people that are going to hop on the Grizzlies bandwagon.
Which I think is such a good thing for the
So
NBA.
hard. Oh, yeah.
A fresh slate of new young stars.
And there's a ton of that. And there's so much talent in the NBA right now. Like, Giannis Antetokounmpo can win another title this year. And if he does, that's great for basketball because now he might be the most accomplished player in the history of the NBA before age 29. And, like, it's significant. There's a lot of significance here in this playoffs in terms of developing the star of the players and be the face of your franchise whenever LeBron does eventually retire.
So we've got 2 additional play-in games tonight. Charlotte Hornets, Atlanta Hawks. We got LaMelo taking on Trae Young. That game tips off at 6 o'clock. We got Spurs, Pelicans. Your thoughts on the games tonight? Elijah, very quickly, your picks for tonight.
I like the Hornets plus 5.5. I think they're going to keep it close. The Hawks still can't guard anybody, and the Hornets like to score a lot. Taking the Hornets to cover the 5.5. Taking the Pelicans to cover minus 5.5. CJ McCollum, player prop, going over 28.5 points tonight.
All right, there you go. Those games are obviously very important. Those games mean something. And for the Predators, their games moving forward all have meaning in this playoff race. Smashville Live breaks down the Predators game last night and their slate coming up next. Stillman & Company is back tomorrow at 2.